Chapter 221 Can't Lose. Bai Yu didn't immediately reply. She was actually in consideration. It was clear she was thinking of betting, but as she was not an alchemist, she was not sure whether Chen Shang could be successful or not before 100 tries. Oh well, forget about it. Once I have fully grasped it, then we'll see. Bai Yu, after much consideration, refused Chen Zhang's proposition. From the very start, she had profound yin divine vein and mainly cultivated freezing cold true qi. Furthermore, she also cultivated ruthless devil skill which could make one not even recognize their own closest relatives. That was why she was usually cold. However, Chen Shang and Su Meiyao both knew that under that ice-cold semblance, she would also be happy, excited, and be concerned about others. She too had emotions of happiness, sorrow, anger and joy. That was why Su Meiyao was very relieved. She did not want her senior sister, whom she had shared and depended on for many years, to repeat the same mistake and walk the same path as their master. Su Meiyao didn't want Bai Yu to turn into a devil who would slaughter everyone, becoming a person who wouldn't even recognize her own relatives and friends. Su Meiyao also had no choice but to admit, after Bai Yu befriended Chen Shang, she had truly changed a lot. Chen Shang was somewhat disappointed, however, he still rubbed his hands in excitement. His spirit was brimming, as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He continued to refine dans. He wanted to be successful in refining the elemental spirit Dan, while preventing the number of his failures could not exceed 100. Another day passed, and Chen Shang once again failed 10 more times. As before, he could not pass the absorption of divine sense hurdle, and this made Su Meiyao secretly excited. Obviously, she too had refined the elemental spirit Dan, and although she didn't have a soul of Shinto, eating elemental spirit Dan was best for promoting divine sense. In the past, before she was able to refine elemental spirit Dan, she had failed 600 times, and at that time, the depression she felt had almost made her spew blood. Another day passed again, and Chen Shang once again failed 10 more times. As before, he was still stuck at that checkpoint. Holy fucking shit, do father fucking have to kiss that damn fatty in front of Yun Xiaodao and Squinted Dragon? Chen Shang started to lose his composure. If he failed, what awaits him was equal to going to hell. Su Meiyao giggles came from inside the ring. The past 2 days, whenever she thought of what Chen Shang would have to do after he lost, she would heartlessly start laughing. For her, these were her most happy days in so many years. It's not worth it. Sister Meiyao, if you lost, you just have to kiss this handsome, suave and outstanding gentleman on the lips. But if I lose, I have to kiss Zhu Rong, that pig. Chen Zhang's hand, which was holding the herbs, slightly trembled. Losing would put him in a place beyond redemption, but of course, if he won, it would very cool. But now he felt his defeat was just a matter of time. Ha ha, this is what you asked for yourself. Who asked you to think of kissing me? Su Meiyao tenderly laughed and said. Bai Yu didn't laugh either. She was in fact very looking forward to who was going to lose or win. She was very much in anticipation of that funny scene. Chen Shang shook his head. He knew that if he himself lost, that would definitely be an everyday nightmare for him. 10 more tries. Chen Shang, in his mind, told himself that he must win. Night time. Chen Shang heaved a long sigh. He had already failed 98 times. You only have 2 tries left. Su Meiyao giggled and said. Chen Shang, at this moment, was very serious. He absolutely could not fail. He didn't speak with Su Meiyao again. He just calmed down his heart, took a rest while replaying the moment he had failed in his mind. He wanted to find the most crucial key. After taking rest, a confident aura flashed through Chen Zhang's eyes. He proficiently placed the herbs inside the furnace before pouring the flames into it. Bit by bit, time slowly went by. Meanwhile, the brilliant flame dragon furnace was calm as before. This was the sign of successful refinement. Su Meiyao and Bai Yu were secretly shocked. When Su Meiyao was secretly clenching her teeth, a thunderous sound suddenly broke out from the furnace as it exploded. This made Su Meiyao suddenly let out a sigh, and afterwards, she began giggling. However, there was no sign of despair on Chen Shang. He still had 1 more try left. Besides, after the last try, he had already crossed that threshold. His failure only came during the final moment of the dance solidification. Through the failure in the previous attempt, he had finally found the reason. He took a rest for a while, before once again placing the herbs inside the brilliant flame dragon furnace. With seriousness and calmness written all over his face, Chen Shang began refining, dismissing any distracting thought. all of his attention was focused on the situation inside the furnace. The brilliant flame dragon furnace remained extremely calm, and at this point, beads of large sweat appeared on Chen Zhang's forehead. Apparently, he had already arrived at the most crucial moment of solidifying the Dan. During the solidification of Dan, those ownerless spiritual power were very irascible. Inside the elemental spirit Dan, there were only pure spiritual power, however, because they were squeezed together and very tyrannical, they might explode at any moment, and this was equivalent to compressing the true qi. However, Chen Shang was now compressing the spiritual power, that was why he could easily suffer a backlash from those spiritual power, making him feel as if his head was splitting. By just losing a bit of his focus, he would immediately fall short of success. That was why during the refinement of the elemental spirit Dan, the Dan's solidification was also a checkpoint that was very difficult cross. But of course, if the divine sense was strong enough, there would be no pressure of any sort at all. Su Meiyao knew this point. She concluded Chen Zhang's divine sense was slightly lacking, which was the main reason why she dared to bet. Although she was shocked by how quick Chen Shang had transversed the absorption of divine sense to reach this threshold, she was still sure that Chen Shang would still not be successful in his 100th attempt. Chen Shang felt as if his head was about to split. However, just as he felt he would not be able to support anymore, the Shinto infant soul in his consciousness opened its small eyes. It let out a clear and sharp cry, and suddenly, divine sense poured forth into him in a steady stream, making his spirit slightly shake. With the vast divine sense he suddenly acquired, he immediately compressed that elemental spirit Dan. That originally fiercely shaking brilliant flame dragon furnace suddenly calmed down, and at this point, Chen Shang had already entered the last step of the solidification of Dan. It was clear he was not far from success. What made Chen Shang surprised was that Shinto infant soul had actually, at the most crucial moment, helped him, while also giving him so much divine sense. At the moment, he was currently looking at the little baby inside the Shinto infant soul. Currently, he still had no way to completely control this little baby, but if he could, he would be in possession of an extremely powerful divine sense. According to Long Shui, as long as he had reached the true fusion with the spirit, he would have truly crossed the first threshold of Shinto. Generally, only a single Dan would come out from each set of herbs for the elemental spirit Dan. According to Su Meiyao, only 2 Dans could be refined at most, however, she herself was not able to refine that many. Since the first time Chen Shang refined the elemental spirit Dan, he was not planning to take any risk, he just wanted to refine a Dan in order to increase his chances of success. However, even this was very difficult to follow, and it had even made him fail 99 times. As long as his failed attempts had not exceeded 100 times, he had won. Su Meiyao nibbled her lips. From the past few days till now, she had been laughing every day, but at this moment, no laughter came out from her mouth anymore, instead, her face was completely flushed. Senior sister, now what to do? I'm afraid. Su Meiyao leaned on Bai Yuyu's arm and said. Just don't go outside. Bai Yuyu, although she didn't smile or laugh, it was evident in her eyes that she was completely gloating. No way, I'll be despised by that brat. Su Meiyao shook her head and said. Anyway, you're just kissing him, and you are not spread your legs for him. Bai Yuyu slightly raised the corner of her lips, although her smile was somewhat stiff, it was still very beautiful. Su Meiyao's pretty face was completely flushed, she didn't think Bai Yuyu could speak so openly, she angrily retorted, Senior sister, aren't you enjoying this? You asked for this. Anyway, you are usually intimate with the brat, kissing with him is nothing. Didn't you say you quite like him? But he's just little weaker now. Bai Yuyu said. At this time, Su Meiyao heard Chen Zhang's nasty and sinister laughter. Sister Meiyao, I finished refining the elemental spirit Dan. You quickly take a bath, wear some pretty clothes, and come out to have a kiss with me. Chapter 222. You bet, you pay. Chapter 222. You bet, you pay. Chen Shang opened the furnace and took out a very beautiful elemental spirit Dan. It was wrapped in a golden brilliance, and exquisitely carved, with a white light-like flame beating at the center. Su Meiyao came out. She wore a casual white dress with uncombed and disorderly hair. However, that still couldn't hide her peerless beauty, on the contrary, it added a strange sort of charm. She nibbled on her lips, as her tender and charming face was filled with displeasure. She couldn't help but tenderly snort as she saw that nasty smile on Chen Zhang's face. Sister Meiyao, I'm a veteran. You don't need to worry, I won't bite your tongue. Rather, I'm afraid of you biting my tongue. Chen Shang said with a grin, as he moved towards Su Meiyao. Su Meiyao glanced at the elemental spirit Dan. Chen Shang was indeed successful in refining it, moreover, it was of top quality, which made her secretly give up all resistance. How do you want to start? Su Meiyao's pretty face flushed slightly, as she asked in a low voice. Raise your head and close your eyes, leave the rest to me. Chen Shang licked his lips, and said with an evil smile. Su Meiyao tenderly spat, before closing her eyes, and raising her head to face Chen Shang. Her heartbeat accelerated and she became extremely tense, especially when she felt that Chen Shang was gradually approaching. Chen Shang looked at that stunning and coquettish beauty. He couldn't help but lightly stroke Su Meiyao's cheek with the back of his hand, and savor that white creamy feeling. Su Meiyao's eyelashes slightly shook a bit, before she tenderly snorted and said, "Hurry up, don't mess with me." Chen Shang mischievously laughed. Su Meiyao was willing to accept a loss if she had agreed to a bet. Afterwards, two figures embraced each other. As they both got drunk in that marvelous feeling, both of them completely lost track of time. After an unknown duration of time, this tender scene was shattered as Long Shui tenderly shouted, "Someone's coming." At this time, Chen Shang was reluctant to part with Su Meiyao. As she separated from Chen Zhang's bosom, she looked at him with a confused and beautiful expression in her eyes. However, she soon lowered her head and spat, before returning back to the ring. Chen Shang grinned, licked his lips, and savored that lingering feeling. After Su Meiyao returned to that small residence inside the ring, she collapsed on the bed. She didn't speak, and lowered her head thinking of something. Her face was still slightly rosy. Seeing this scene left Bai Yu baffled. Chen Shang, what's kissing? Does it taste good? I also want to try. Long Shui suddenly asked, her voice full of curiosity. Eat my ass, all day, do you only think of eating? Little brat, go away, this is adult business. Chen Shang scoffingly rebuked. Humph, I have been in the dragon egg for thousands of years, you are the little brat. Long Shui berated in a tender voice. Chen Shang left the private room. As he arrived in his little garden, he noticed Elder Dan blankly standing under the 9 sun flames tree. Noticing Chen Shang arrive, Elder Dan fiercely turned around and hastily asked, "What the hell happened here?" Chen Shang, while scratching his head, smiled and said, "This isn't all that bad, right?" Elder Dan coldly harumphed and said, "Nonsense, the 5-color lotus, the 9 su flames tree, fire spirit grass, raising soul grass, divine spirit flower, metal spirit trees, 1,000 vein trees, which of these aren't good things? Tell me honestly, where the hell did you get all this?" The 9 sun flames tree had already bore 2 fruits, so Elder Dan was fully aware that they weren't recently planted by Chen Shang. Elder Dan had just come out of secluded training. In regards to the outside matters, she simply had no clue. Otherwise, there would be no need to ask Chen Shang what was going on. You have to keep it a secret. You can't tell this to anyone else. Chen Shang said. That is a given, we already know too many of each other's secrets. You don't need to remind me. Chen Shang grinned, these were all taken from the Herb King Mountain, I'm pretty sure the Lu family is currently looking around for me. Elder Dan was surprised for a moment. Chen Shang had actually raided the Lu family's Herb King Mountain. However, she knew that the Lu family wasn't weak at all, they would absolutely not let Chen Shang off scot-free. I'll reinforce the array here. Quickly, go. The Dean is assembling everyone above or in the true martial realm currently present in the extreme martial sect. Elder Dan said. Originally Elder Dan had to halt her closed-door training because of Ji Yu Dongchen. Chen Shang followed behind her and left the extreme Dan King courtyard. The assembly place was a large patch of open space in the mysterious realm. On the way, Chen Shang saw Yun Xiaodao and the others. Chen Shang also noticed their complexion wasn't bad. With one glance he was sure that their good luck had once again played its part. Zhu Lao, did you get lucky again? Chen Shang asked while laughing. Almost, I picked up a very easy high-ranked mission. Zhu Rong laughed and answered. He was a businessman, and in this regard, his vision was very accurate. Of course, some luck was also required. Elder brother Chen, this time the Dean is gathering all us true martial realm martial artists. It seems the battle with the Devil Path sects is about to start. Right, the Lu family has actually posted a 5 million crystal stones bounty on you, your worth has once again gone up. Yun Xiaodao said with a look of admiration, when can I have everyone posting a reward for me, how beautiful would such a scene be? Chen Shang shook his head. If the Liu family didn't put a bounty on his head, that would be even more strange. After all, he had actually shaved off their entire foundation. Chen Shang, what did you do to the Liu family? Why did they put such a high bounty on your head? Even when you killed their elder, they didn't put a bounty on your head. Shu Weilong asked. Chen Shang laughed and said, I didn't do anything, I just took a trip to the Liu family. Seeing Chen Shang with that kind of smile, Yuan Xiaodao understood. Took a trip meant he had definitely benefited from it. From the sheer value of the bounty, they were certain that he had certainly done a lot of fishing fish up a fortune. Chen Shang, where's my share? I helped you investigate the Liu family. Zhu Rong hastily grabbed Chen Zhang's arm, after which he quickly received a jade box from the latter. As Zhu Rong hastily opened it, he let out a strange cry, as his face was filled with surprise and excitement. He quickly closed the jade box, calmed down, and tried to act as if nothing had happened. This was because Chen Shang had given Zhu Rong 2 building foundation dans. Sigh, if only some of my sisters were so beautiful. Zhu Rong sighed. In his eyes, Chen Shang was a nouveau riche, and also very candid and generous. Although Yuan Xiaodao's and Shu Weilong's strength was very good in their generation, Chen Zhang's felt they still fell short by a little, so he also gave each of them 2 building foundation dans. This would give them the chance to improve their strength quickly. Building foundation dans could allow them to improve their cultivation. After taking the dan, their strength would become even more terrifying. Although, among their peers they were already very strong, they were still surpassed by many of the same generation. And this was even after leaving the abnormal monsters, such as Chen Shang, out. Besides, these building foundation dan were a very rare and precious dan, only Chen Shang could produce so many of them with his odd techniques. Moreover, not only did he refine them quickly, even their quality was very high. Not to mention that his building foundation dan's potency was several folds that of any other alchemist. Zhu Rong knew his stuff. With just a glance, he could tell that these building foundation dans were out of the ordinary. Chapter 223, Candidates. Chapter 223 Candidates. TLN. So I found out that Chapter 222 was really censored on 17K. Sniff. I have checked other website and translated that part, so please do visit Chapter 222, only 18 plus XD. Enjoy. Yuan Xiaodao and Shu Weilong were both scared just like Zhu Rong after they opened their respective jade boxes. They realized Chen Shang also gave Zhu Rong 2 building foundation dans. At once, 6 building foundation dans came from Chen Shang. This left them extremely surprised. Did Chen Shang find a stash of building foundation dans or something? Hey, a total of 500,000 crystal stones, are you going to buy or not? Chen Shang laughed. In order to not let them feel burdened, Chen Shang also had recover a little crystal stones. How many do you have? I want all of them. Zhu Rong hastily shouted. Get out. Yuan Xiaodao scoffingly said, of course we're going to buy, but can't you reduce the price a little? You are actually bargaining with me, really proximity to pitch turns you black. Chen Shang laughed and said as he glanced at Zhu Rong. Zhu Rong curled his lips and replied, what proximity to pitch turns you black, this one always had good habits. Shu Weilong very readily took out 500,000 crystal stones and gave it Chen Shang. Shu Weilong said with a light sigh, this is all I have, all of a sudden I'm left with nothing. Chen Zhang's building foundation dans were very useful for all of them, with this, they could quickly obtain a ton of true qi. After they walked into a huge courtyard, they saw 100 or so people already present. These were all the true martial realm disciples the extreme martial sect could gather, in total, a little more than 100 true martial realm martial artists. It was evident just from this that there were not many true martial realm in the Chenwu mainland. However, Chen Shang had crippled more than 100 of them last time in the Black Tortoise mysterious realm. It was such a huge scale event that it shocked the entire world. These past few days, the negotiations between our righteous sects and devil path sects have been fruitful. However, there is a precondition. According to the agreement, a battle is going to be held in the southern wasteland, between martial artists under the 5th level of the true martial realm. Those who enter the southern wasteland will face a life and death struggle. They will have to survive in the southern wasteland mountain range for 2 months. In the end, the side with most disciples surviving will be victorious. Ji Yu Dongchen announced. Wu Kaming carried on, the righteous sects will send 50 disciples, while the devil path side will do the same. Our extreme martial sect will send 10 disciples. The true martial sect and the beast martial sect had suffered heavy losses, and thus they couldn't send too many. Plus, as the number one sect of the Chenwu mainland, the extreme martial sect naturally had to send more than the others. The devil path sects have proven again and again that they also have great potential in their little devil province. If they win, we righteous sects will then have to provide them with a large amount of resources, and if we allowed this to happen, with their growth, they would soon become a great threat for our righteous sects. Wu Kaming said in a heavy tone. Those below the 5th level true martial realm, and including 5th level true martial realm can participate in this battle. Who wants to go? Bear in mind this battle is very dangerous, even a single misstep can take your life. Ji Yu Dongchen's gaze swept over those true martial realm martial artists one by one. There were many under the 5th level true martial realm, however no one stepped forward. Chen Shang shouted, "Count me in." Recognized as the youngest and most talented in his generation, Chen Shang was obviously going to take the lead for the extreme martial sect. This made many elders secretly nod in appreciation. However, Ji Yu Dongchen and Wu Kaming were both somewhat worried about their young martial uncle. They knew these devil path martial artists were not to be trifled with. Besides, the southern wasteland was in itself very dangerous. It was a notoriously dangerous place. "I'll also go," Yun Xiaodao followed up. This cry was immediately followed by Zhu Rong and Shu Weilong. Everyone could tell they had just stepped into the true martial realm, but actually had such guts. This made many secretly admire them. "Sign me up." This time, the speaker was Yao Haisheng, Chen Zhang's apprentice. Now 5 people had signed up, all of them had good relations with Chen Shang. "I'll also go, I can't fall behind the youth." A middle-aged man slightly laughed and said. This time it was Hao Dongqing, Zhu Rong's uncle. 4 left, however, for Wu Kaming and Ji Yu Dongchen, this result was very unsatisfactory. This was because the majority of the candidates were young, whether their experience or the required martial skills, they were lacking. Young people will only suffer disadvantages. Of course, Chen Shang was an exception. Are all the other martial courtyards cowardly? All 6 people participating came from our 15th martial courtyard. Yun Xiaodao berated in a ridiculing tone. Exactly, the first martial courtyard. This number is in vain for these guys, such a waste of a good martial courtyard. Zhu Rong also followed up with another insult. Many were very reluctant in their hearts to fight with vicious and fierce individuals from the devil path sects. Facing the ridicule of those younger than them, although they were furious, everyone chose to remain silent. At this moment, the entire courtyard was dead silent. The extreme martial sect still had 4 spots left, however, no disciples came forward. Ji Yu Dongchen was slightly angry. He didn't expect the extreme martial sect's disciples to be so weak and cowardly. Even the current new generation of true martial realm disciples dared to step forward, but none of the old ones. Ji Yu Dongchen didn't want to force anyone, however, he was now left with no choice. Just as he was about to speak, Chen Shang said, "Dean, how long is left before the start of battle?" 3 months. Leave those last 4 guys to me. After 3 months, I'll bring 4 true martial realm guys to see you. Chen Shang once again said. Ji Yu Dongchen frowned, and said, "Are you speaking the truth?" "Of course, but we are going to risk our lives after all. When we return, will there be any rewards awaiting us?" Chen Shang laughed and replied. "There will definitely be proper compensation." Ji Yu Dongchen said, "Well, now that the candidates are determined, there will not be any further changes." Chen Shang once again shouted, "Dean, if we all came back alive, couldn't you give each of us a bronze disciple and silver warrior title?" Chen Zhang's words raised everyone's heartbeat in an instant. If they could get these 2 titles, they would be able to enter the King Martial Courtyard. Zhu Rong and the other 4 were all secretly excited, and eagerly awaiting Ji Yu Dongchen's answer. Ji Yu Dongchen considered for a moment before he glanced at Wu Kaming, only to see him nod his head. "No problem, as long as you return alive, we will reward 1,000,000 crystal stones, 500 true elemental dans, as well as the bronze disciple and the silver warrior title." Ji Yu Dongchen loudly proclaimed. This made Yun Xiaodao and the others extremely happy. However, they need to come back alive first. Yao Haisheng and Hao Dongqing were both looking forward to the reward. However, they didn't think it was as simple as it seemed. They were clearly aware on how strong these devil path martial artists were compared to the other 3. "Disperse, for the next 3 months, we of Elder Courtyard will do everything to guide you, so that you're sufficiently ready for the battle," Ji Yu Dongchen said. At this point, many people present had some regrets. These rewards were just too tempting. Not to mention, the candidates were going to personally receive the Elder Courtyard's guidance. Haisheng, for these next 3 months, don't bother refining any dans. Chen Shang said. Yao Haisheng was currently in the 4th level of the true martial realm. Chen Shang, where are you going to get 4 more people in the true martial realm? They shouldn't be in 1st level, right? Hai Dongqing asked. If they were all in 1st level, then it would affect their overall strength. Hao Dongqing was in 5th level of the true martial realm, and was quite powerful. In the extreme martial sect, he also had a decent reputation. Uncle Hao, you can rest assured. They might be a little weaker, but they will absolutely not drag us down in any way. Chen Shang replied, before taking his leave with Yun Xiaodao and the others. Before, Chen Shang had asked Yun Xiaodao to search for some talented people to win over, people worthy to vigorously nurture. Yun Xiaodao had already found 5, and Chen Shang was going to see them now. Chapter 224, Buying Popularity. Chapter 224 Buying Popularity. TLN. From the chapter 222, I came to realize that the chapter on 17K was censored. After thinking through, I have decided to translate chapter from piaocean.net instead of 17k.com from chapter 226. Once again, read the kissing scene if you have read the part what we have added ourselves. Out of those 5 people, 2 were currently performing missions outside the sect and had yet to return, so there were only 3 people here at the moment. Zhu Rong and the others had not only carefully investigated these 5 people, but also observed them for a very long time. Their evaluation of them was very high. In a small room, Chen Shang was looking at 3 young males, 2 of which had big physiques, and pretty much the same appearance. Apparently, they were brothers. As for the other one, he looked like a scholar, although what he wore very simple garb, it was very tidy, and he had an amiable smile on his face. 2 brothers were called Lei Xianglin and Lei Zhang. While Lei Xianglin was the eldest, and was a sturdy and forthright man. However, when he spoke it was often somewhat rude and hoarse. On the other hand, his brother Lei Zhang was a simple and honest man. He usually spoke very few words, and even when he spoke, he really wasn't good at talking. However, both of them were very diligent, otherwise they would not have become 10th level mortal martial realm martial artists at such young age. That man with a scholarly appearance was called Lian Mingdong. He was a very astute person, and had done many good deeds in the Tianmen city. However, anyone thinking of drawing in this kind of astute person would cause some suspicion in the back of their minds, perhaps this person had some sort of scheme or plot. But, Chen Shang was fearless of such things. Lei Xianglin, Lei Zhang and Lina Mingdong all knew why they had been invited here today. They knew someone wanted to win over them, they had also experienced this kind of thing several times before. However, they had not been chosen in the end because they had no background. Inside the sect, before someone was drawn in, generally their background would be taken into consideration. If they had a good origin, such as a junior from a small family or a son or daughter of some big businessman, it would be easier for them to be won over. However, for Chen Shang, this was not feasible, as those people would probably not loyal to him, in fact, they would easily betray him for the bounty on his head. Chen Zhang's name in the extreme martial sect reverberated like thunder. Some hated him, some liked him, some admired him, but the majority was simply jealous of him. Now Lei Xianglin and the others could see such a great master-like figure of the extreme martial sect, all of them were somewhat excited and surprised in their hearts. I won't waste time talking nonsense, although we are meeting for first time, I think you should all be acquainted with one another. I've already investigated you all, I hope you don't mind. Chen Shang slightly smiled, this was because I wanted to have more than a few trustworthy men. Lian Mingdong was slightly surprised for a moment, he glanced at Lei Xianglin and Lei Zhang, as all of them were the same kind of people. All 3 were pretty good friends, and were somewhat surprised about this. Are you willing to join us? Simple as that, if you want then join us, that would be great. If not, then forget it. As for what to know about each other, that will come later. Yun Xiaodao said. Yun Xiaodao, Zhu Rong and the others were all young true martial realm martial artists. As a matter of fact, in the extreme martial sect, they were very famous. Besides, they were all juniors of big families. Lei Xianglin and Lei Zhang both glanced at each other, they were being drawn in by a group with such a good influence, they were certainly happy. However, at this moment, their eyes were filled with helplessness. Lian Mingdong said, for senior brother Chen to be kind enough to invite us to join, we are extremely grateful. However, during our last mission, our group came in conflict with some people and we also lost 2 of our companions. Zhu Rong laughed and said, "Are you worried that you will drag us into your conflict?" Lian Mingdong nodded his head. "Yes, I know senior brothers are all young and promising, but..." At this time Lei Xionglan roared, "Don't speak of this. Let's go, we'll manage our own affairs ourselves." Lei Zhang had a very simple-minded smile facing Chen Shang and the others, and said, "If we join your group, we will only bring trouble for you, I'm sorry." Xu Weilong coldly said, "Who is targeting you, and also killed your 2 companions? Although we have nothing to do with you, our investigations made us admire you, which was why we wanted to invite you guys to create a big group." Chen Shang sighed and said, "If I'm not wrong, it should be other extreme martial sect disciples. Sigh, you're risking your lives with them, yet this is what happens. It is simply wastage of your own life. I have an opportunity to let you have life and death battle with Devil Path martial artists. This life and death fight is what you should be yearning for the most." Lei Xionglan's and Lei Zong's entire body trembled, before Lei Xionglan immediately asked, "What opportunity?" Chen Shang faintly smiled. According to the information, Lei Xionglan's and Lei Zong's village had been ravaged by the Devil Path martial artists, which was why their hatred Devil Path martial artists stemmed into their very soul. "Since we have called you, we have put our trust in you. If you let us down, then it's just because our eyes could not discern people. The extreme martial sect will have to immediately send 10 disciples to a place where they will have to fight with the disciples of the Devil Path sects. On the behalf of you 3, I have reserved 3 spots. However, you need to be in the true martial realm." Chen Zhang's words made Lei Xionglan and the others gasp. They were not same as the majority of people. Usually when people heard they needed to fight with Devil Path martial artists, they would be all worried. Especially those who put on airs of arrogance and elegance, they would all be worried about losing their pathetic little lives. They would be more than happy to have a compromise with the Devil Path sects, and share the rich resources of the Chenwu mainland with the Devil Path sects. But the deans of all major righteous sects understood what kind of people the Devil Path martial artists were. If they were allowed to grow, then the civilian populations and the righteous martial artists would have to bear the brunt of the damage. There would be no good days ahead. In order to suppress the Devil Path sects, a fierce battle was needed. Chen Shang took out 6 building foundation dans and said, "I can give 2 building foundation dans to each of you. Whether or not you can step into the true martial realm will be up to your talent, fortune, and luck. After you step into the true martial realm, whether or not you want to work together with us is all up to you. However, you absolutely cannot be like those other cowards in the extreme martial sect and not dare to fight with the Devil Path." Chen Shang placed the 6 building foundation dans on the table. Lian Mingdong, Lei Xionglan and Lei Zhang were all petrified. They continued to look at those 6 building foundation dan in amazement. They were all left speechless. Not to mention them, even Yun Xiaodao and the others could not help but be surprised. Chen Shang had just given them 2 building foundation dans each, however, he once again took out 6 more. "I'm not giving these building foundation dan for nothing. Later, you have to return it to us. I want 200,000 crystal stones for each dan. If you feel like you can repay the debt in the future, then take it." Chen Shang laughed and said, 500,000 crystal stones could not be considered an unpayable amount, nor a negligible amount. That being said, if they could enter the true martial realm, it wouldn't be difficult for them to earn that amount. However, they still required quite a bit of time. Lian Mingdong and the others all took 2 building foundation dans. They looked at Chen Shang with gratitude. They swore in their hearts they would follow Chen Shang until death. He had given them an opportunity to become strong and take revenge. Otherwise, with their origin, God knows which month, year, or decade they would be able to enter the true martial realm. Or perhaps they would just remain in the 10th level of the mortal martial realm for the rest of their lives. After you enter the true martial realm, immediately seek Elder Wu and let him make proper arrangements for you. At that time, tell him Chen Shang sent you to find him. And one more thing, only eat 1 dan for now. If you can break through using one, then you can leave the other for when you try to reach the 2nd level. Chen Shang seriously instructed them. Lei Xionglan and the others didn't said anything, they just held their fists towards Chen Shang, and followed Yun Xiaodao and the others out. Such a generosity was unable to be repaid just by saying thanks. They would use their actions to thank Chen Shang for what he has done. Now, only one more candidate was needed. Chen Shang could only go back to Elder Dan's King Courtyard to find Elder Dan. After all, Wu Qianchen was the best final candidate for the position. He was just worried about Elder Dan hiding Wu Qianchen until her death. Chapter 225, Shinto. Chapter 225 Shinto. TLN. From now on the infant soul of Chen Shang, which we used to refer it as spirit, will be referred as divine soul from this chapter on. After returning to the extreme Dan King courtyard, Chen Shang had just thought of knocking on Elder Dan's door when Elder Dan's voice suddenly came from inside. Did you come for Wu Qianchen? Elder Dan opened the door and asked. Chen Shang nodded his head, now just lacking one person. Tomorrow, I will take her to Dean. You definitely need to bring her back to me. Elder Dan said. No problem. Chen Shang smiled, and then quickly left. After he returned to his own private room, he took out the elemental spirit Dan. Although he only had one, it was still enough for his very immature divine soul. This time, the fight with the Devil Path martial artists in the southern wasteland would be very frigid, which caused Chen Shang to feel some pressure. He knew these Devil Path sects were not vegetarians, whoever they sent would definitely not be weak. The extreme martial sect had not forced anyone to go, everyone was voluntarily going to the battle. Hence, the 5th level true martial realm people, these strong martial artists, would often not be participating because they were deeply aware how powerful Devil Path martial artists were. In their opinion, Chen Shang and these younglings were only seeking their deaths. Not to mention, they were going to the southern wasteland, which was one of the most dangerous places in the Chenwu mainland. Little dragon, if I just start cultivating Shinto, what kind of power will I gain? Chen Shang asked. In regards to Shinto, it could be said he knew nothing at all. That depends on what kind of spiritual power you are going to learn. Long Shui said, to be precise, the spiritual power is state of the divine soul under which one use their power. It is probably similar to yours so-called divine martial skills, their principles are very similar. However, spiritual powers are very rare, even I only have 5 in my hands, nothing more. Chen Shang frowned. The Dragon Clan's hereditary memories were exceptionally vast, however, according to Long Shui, she only had 5 spiritual powers. Chen Shang had only seen her using the spiritual power called the 72 transformations, turning into a small rabbit, small rat or something similar. He felt that this skill didn't serve much of a use. The spiritual power you planning to teach would not be that 72 transformations, right? Chen Shang asked in contempt. Without any spiritual power, then cultivating the divine soul one would only be able to grow divine sense, but they would have no way use its power. Don't underestimate that 72 transformations. I know how to alter sound, change appearances, and turn into a small animal and hide myself. That's very useful. This spiritual power is listed as an abnormal spiritual power and it's ranked in forefront. Long Shui said in a tender voice. Chen Shang pondered for a while. After thinking over it again, it was indeed very bizarre and almost cheat-like. He asked, if I cultivate it, can I even transform my body? Of course you can. After you cultivate Shinto, you will enter into the 2nd level. By then, your divine soul will have grown as old as you are and then you can fuse it with your body. When that happens, your body will be transformed along with your divine soul. However, if you want to transform to the same extent as me, then there is still a long way to go. Long Shui proudly said. Chen Shang got slightly excited, exclaimed, pretty mystical. Of course, otherwise it will not be called divine soul, Xianhun, spiritual power, Xiantong, and Shinto, Xiandao. Long Shui said. TLN. All 3 words have Xian character, meaning divine or God. Chen Shang swallowed down the elemental spirit Dan. What made him surprised was that the elemental spirit Dan was quickly digested by his body, producing a steady stream of spiritual essence that flowed into his consciousness. While the infant soul in his consciousness mindlessly absorbed that spiritual essence. As the infant soul absorbed the vast amount of spiritual essence, it grew by leaps and bounds. Chen Shang could clearly see that originally 1 to 2 years old baby growing bigger by the second. This elemental spirit Dan should allow your divine soul to grow around 5 to 6 years old. Once it's finished, you can start cultivating spiritual power. In the next 3 months, you should be able to learn few transformations among the 72 transformations. To be precise, the most powerful aspect of spiritual power in attacking is the utilization of divine sense and true qi together. Long Shui said. Unwittingly, the divine soul in Chen Zhang's consciousness was already as big as 4 to 5 years old. He could now feel an even more intimate connection with his divine soul. However, it still could not called a true fusion, as that required it to become fused with his body. only then could he transform his body under the mystical power of his divine soul. The divine soul's growth was the same as how people grow. During childhood, one would not understand anything, while as one gradually grew, they would begin to gain wisdom, which was also the best time for fusion. Quickly fuse. If you miss this opportunity, the fusion will be much more difficult down the road. Long Shui said. She could directly see inside Chen Zhang's consciousness. How? Chen Shang hastily asked. Just simply think of yourself fusing with the divine soul. Chen Shang immediately followed Long Shui's instruction and concentrated on thinking of fusing his body and divine soul together. Slowly, his body began to glitter in bursts of golden light one after the other as a bizarre feeling permeated throughout his whole body. 10 days passed. Chen Shang heaved a long sigh and opened his eyes. He looked at his hands and feet. He made his finger curl a bit, but this action was not under the control of his body, but rather his divine soul. Even if his body was paralyzed by some drug now, he could still perform the same movement, because he could now use 2 different ways to move his body. One was using his mind to move the body like ordinary humans, while the other was using his divine sense to control his body. Chen Shang sat cross-legged on the ground, and breathed in a bit of air. With that mystical divine soul from before, he tried to control his body to levitate in the air as his legs gradually left the ground, becoming suspended in midair. Ha ha ha, Chen Shang suddenly started laughing. This kind of feeling is too cool. Is this Shinto? These past 10 days, Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu had always been paying attention to Chen Zhang's condition. They had seen him treading the path to Shinto step by step alone. It was very rare chance to see such a thing. If they could have the opportunity to contact Shinto, then this would be tremendously helpful. Correct, but you better not let your divine soul leave your body for now. Your divine soul is currently too weak, it's just a little brat. With just one pinch, I can kill you. Long Shui tenderly laughed and said. Chen Shang nodded his head. This divine soul was quite similar to his own soul. However, it was able to be cultivated, and it could become even more powerful much easier than his actual soul. When can I let my own divine soul be isolated from my body? Chen Shang asked in excitement. He thought it would be very cool to be able to do that sort of thing. It's best to wait till your divine soul has the strength of someone in the Nirvana realm. Of course, you could still do it with a 5th to 6th level of the true martial realm strength, but the premise is that no one more powerful than you can find you. Otherwise they will attack your divine soul, and it will be bothersome, especially if you can't escape. Even if you're just seriously injured, it might result in your soul getting destroyed and scattered. If just lightly, then your divine soul will suffer serious injuries. Long Shui said, that's why it's better to stay honest and let it mature inside your body, let your body and divine soul both grow stronger together. This is the most formidable and safest way. Otherwise, my dragon clan would not need to cement their bodies before breaking their shell and just use our divine souls instead. Chen Shang had taken yet another step on the road of Shinto. This made him very excited. He first took a bath, before he quickly left Extreme Dan King Courtyard in order to find Yun Xiaodao and the others. He wanted to see how Lei Xianglin and the other 2 were doing. Chen Shang entered a hall and soon saw Lian Mingdong, Lei Xianglin and Lei Zhang. The 3 people had pretty good complexions, their faces brimming with a pleasant smile. When they saw Chen Shang arrive, all 3 of them stood up one by one. Seeing their current appearance, Chen Shang did not need ask whether they had entered the true martial realm or not. He chuckled and said, congratulations for entering the true martial realm. Chapter 226, Devil Path Plan. Chapter 226 Devil Path Plan. Lei Xianglin laughed and said, this is all thanks to senior brother Chen. Because of the building foundation dans you had given to us, we were able to enter the true martial realm. For this, we are extremely grateful. Lian Mingdong said, senior brother Chen, we cannot thank you enough for your great graciousness. In the future, if you need any help from us, whatever it is, just say it. Lei Zhang spoke with a silly laugh, I don't have brain, but I have power. In the future, I'll definitely repay senior brother Chen. Yun Xiaodao and the others secretly admired Chen Zhang's methods. All 3 of them had entered the true martial realm, and now they were loyal and devoted to Chen Shang. While others have a lot more young retinues, their retinues were only in the 10th level of the mortal martial realm. Although they had more, all of them combined would still be incomparable to a 1st level true martial realm martial artist. Chen Shang chuckled and asked, how many building foundation dans did all of you ate? 1. Lian Mingdong and the trio only ate 1, From this, it was evidently clear how big their potential was. They were just stuck at the bottleneck of the mortal martial realm, but if they cultivated with all their efforts for 10 to 20 years, even without the building foundation dance, they would have eventually entered the true martial realm. You're all here. Dean asked me to gather you. Hao Dongqing walked in. Lian Mingdong and the others had just stepped into the true martial realm 2 or 3 days ago, and already met with Wu Kaming and the Dean. As all 3 of them had just entered the true martial realm, going to the southern wasteland would be extremely dangerous for them. Of course, Chen Shang, from the start, didn't want to make these 3 newcomers risk their lives in killing the Devil Path martial artists. Going to the southern wasteland was not just for the competition, otherwise, there would be no need to go the southern wasteland. If one so wished, they could simply find a safe place in the southern wasteland and hide themselves for the sake of surviving. Finally, whoever had more people surviving, they could claim themselves as the winner. That was why the biggest challenge was survive in that dangerous land and avoid being hunted down. Those were the most crucial. However, Chen Shang could still not understand why would Devil Path sects propose to go there. In Wu Kaiming's courtyard, there were a total of 10 people, including Chen Shang and the others. He also saw Wu Qianchen, however, since there were several elders as well as the dean present here, he couldn't just go and have a conversation. Everyone is here. Sigh, honestly, this trip is very dangerous for you youngsters, especially those who had just recently entered the true martial realm. Yu Dongchen sighed. Elder Dan said, how about I go and bring those timid guys here? If 10 5th level true martial realm martial artists would go, then it would be the most powerful lineup. Yu Dongchen shook his head, no need, the others are not necessarily going to send their strongest. The Devil Path sects may not send their most powerful disciples either. We all know this competition is proposed by the Devil Path sects, and both the time and the location are according to them. Moreover, the purpose of this competition is not to compete in strength, but to compete who can live longer. Wu Kaming nodded his head and said, if comparing strength, those Devil Path disciples are not much better than us, otherwise, they would not have go through all this trouble. They propose the location of the competition in the southern wasteland mountain range, maybe it's because their ability to adapt is way better, and they can also use the terrain and various dangers to sneak attack our people. Chen Shang agreed, yes, maybe they don't even need to act, people will surely die in there. If their surviving ability is better than us, maybe at the end, all of them will be surviving, and then they will certainly win. This way, they could easily win against those martial artists stronger than them, and they could also await for the death of a few true martial realm martial artists of the enemy along the way. Yu Dongchen said, that's why when you go there, don't think you have to risk your life into killing the other party. Of course, if someone is alone, everyone together with all their might can kill him. However, pay close attention if any kind of trap set by them. Among the righteous sect, our extreme martial sect is sending the largest number of people, the beast martial sect and true martial sect are only sending 4 participants. The Danxiang Taoyuan and the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire are sending 7 each, and as for the remaining Lotus Island, Icewind Valley and the Proud Sword sect, all of them are just sending 6 each. Wu Kaming said, we are sending 10 there, as for teamwork, Chen Shang must leave all of you. This guy is a troublemaker. Moreover, he has a bounty of 15 million, so whether it's the righteous or the devil path, both will be eyeing him for his head. The corners of Chen Zhang's mouth slight twitched, however, what Wu Kaming and the others ordered him to do was also the correct decision. Otherwise, he would affect the whole team. Yun Xiaodao and Lei Xianglin, as well as the others, were somewhat reluctant though. All of them revered Chen Shang, and they were thinking of wandering in the world with Chen Shang. However, they had to listen to Yu Dongchen. Chen Shang, you act alone. You have the vermilion bird fire wings and rich fighting experience. You have killed a lot more people stronger than you. Your purpose to go there is to kill the Devil Path martial artists, and at the same time, protect the disciples of the other sects. When the disciples of the righteous sect are getting attacked, you need to come out to rescue. As for the other 9 people, you will stay together and cannot be separated. In the next 3 months, we will train you and make you act in harmony. Yu Dongchen spoke. Chen Shang suddenly thought whether the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire and the Icewind Valley were going to send Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulin. Both of them were quite powerful in their generation, and they were also the focus of training in their respective sects. Chen Shang had some contradiction in his heart. If they were there, he would be very happy because he could meet with them. But at the same time, he was also worried. If they went there, then they would certainly have to face danger. After much deliberation, he felt it was better if those two didn't go there, because it was too dangerous. He prayed Lu Menger would not send them. Good, now all of you should go with Elder Lao to a secret place for training. Chen Shang, you stay, we have something to tell you. Ji Yu Dongchen said. Yun Xiaodao and the other 8 followed a hunchbacked old man out. After they went away, only then did Wu Keiming spoke. Young martial uncle, how did you suddenly find 3 martial artists who just entered true martial realm? If they are to join, then you are only killing them. These 3 have pretty good foundation. Surely young martial uncle gave them building foundation dans. Elder Dan spoke from the side. Both Wu Keiming and Ji Yu Dongchen didn't know that Chen Shang had so many building foundation dans. They also didn't know that Chen Shang could refine building foundation dan. If it was spread out that Chen Shang had so many building foundation dans in his grasp, it would shake the entire Chenwu mainland. Ji Yu Dongchen and Wu Keiming immediately thought Chen Shang was developing his own forces. Doing so was not wrong in any way. Chen Shang laughed and said, I'm not going to conceal it from you, this martial uncle knows how to refine building foundation dan. If you want, I can sell it to you a little cheaper, just 500,000 crystal stones for one. If you want, you just have to say a word. What? Ji Yu Dongchen shouted in shock. It came as a surprise to him that Chen Shang could actually refine building foundation dan. Wu Keiming also dumbfoundedly stared at Chen Zane. Although he and Ji Yu Dongchen didn't know how to refine dans, they still knew how difficult it was to refine building foundation dans. Above all, it was required for an alchemist to be prodigal in wasting enough materials. It's true, Elder Dan coldly snorted. However, in her heart, she was secretly laughing. Chen Shang was clearly planning to cheat Ji Yu Dongchen and Wu Keiming. She knew that for Chen Shang, obtaining the building foundation dans was nothing. Chapter 227, Transformation Technique. Chapter 227 Transformation Technique. Seeing Elder Dan's confirmation, both Wu Keiming and Ji Yu Dongchen could not help but gulp a cold lump in shock. Chen Shang could actually refine building foundation dan, and it also seemed he had no small amount of them. Young martial uncle, how many do you have? Ji Yu Dongchen hastily asked. Over the years, the disciples entering the true martial realm in the extreme martial sect were getting increasingly lesser. 10. Chen Shang smiled and said, you want. But I cannot sell you so many all of a sudden. But if you want all in one breath, then so be it. Either give me 1,200 true elemental dan, or give me 600,000 crystal stones. Ji Yu Dongchen secretly cursed Chen Shang, then said, I first have to consult with those old men of the Elder Courtyard. Hurry up, do not blame me when they are gone. Chen Shang laughed and said, then followed Elder Dan to the Extreme Dan King Courtyard. The advantage of the building foundation dan laid in its ability to release a large amount of rich true chi at once. It could allow a 10th level mortal martial realm martial artists to break through their bottleneck in one fell swoop, which other dan could not replace in any way. Because the building foundation dans were rare, it was even more expensive. Chen Shang could not let a large number of building foundation dans flow out, otherwise, they would not have any rarity, and thus, their value would diminish. That was why he intended to leave them for his own use, or sell them at a high price to whom he was familiar with. If opportunity presides, he would take them out for auction. Have you used the entire Azure Profound Fruits? After returning to the Extreme Dan King Courtyard, Elder Dan asked. Failed good several times, however, I still have more than 100. Chen Shang laughed while Elder Dan lightly snorted. She was secretly jealous of Chen Shang. He was only a true martial realm, yet he already had so many building foundation dans in his grasp. If used sparingly, more than 100 true martial realm martial artists could be nurtured. However, Chen Shang didn't intend to nurture so many. He didn't want so many. As long as they were fine, together with him, they would do many things. Few could facilitate managing other things for him. Now are you planning to learn a divine martial skill? Elder Dan asked. Are you going to teach me? Chen Shang laughed and said. Of course. Chen Shang shook his head and said, not now. I have more important things to do. Hey, if you take off your mask to teach me, then that's more like it. Humph, you want to learn, but you won't learn. At the time of your death, don't blame me. Elder Dan softly snorted and said, then angrily left. Chen Shang was baffled. He could not understand why Elder Dan would suddenly become angry. He returned to his private room, sat cross-legged then asked, Little Dragon, are you going to teach me those spiritual powers? Chen Shang thought it was better to learn spiritual power first, because it would allow him to possess an even more powerful ability to survive, especially that spiritual power of myriad transformations. I can teach you now, but whether you can learn or not is all up to you. Long Shui's voice was filled with contempt, as if Chen Shang didn't have a fat chance to learn it. Little girl, don't underestimate me. Chen Shang laughed and said, quickly teach me. First I'm going to teach you 72 transformations. With your current weak divine soul, it would be just about right for you to transform into a small animal. As for those bigger entities, don't even think about it. Long Shui said, currently, even I can only transform into an adult tiger at most. It's enough, transforming into a small bird should do it. Chen Shang was suddenly excited, thinking of himself transforming into a bird and flying away, making his enemies unable to notice him in the slightest. Of course you can, but first you have to learn. Long Shui laughed and said, at that time, just don't get eaten. But with your body, even if you encountered any powerful attack, you will not immediately die. Those who have divine soul, as long as they don't encounter someone many times powerful than them, generally speaking, they will not die. Chen Shang rubbed his hands. At this time, Long Shui began imparting him the so-called 72 transformations spiritual power. It had lot of content, but fortunately, Long Shui was passing it through her divine sense, fast and convenient. Chen Shang was more and more certain that Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu both were from the heavenly realm, because this divine sense transmitting ability or anything similar was something he still hadn't seen yet. This 72 transformations could not specifically transform into 72 things, but instead into various kinds. However, generally speaking, there was no need for so many, that was why it was developed into 72 basic transformations. After grasping these, as long as one's divine soul was strong enough, one could truly transform into myriads of things. Its difficulty lay in the utilization of divine soul to control the body, then in releasing a bizarre power from the divine soul. Long Shui called this power as spiritual power, and its user could use their own mind to control the transformation of body. At the same time, in accordance with some method of applying the spiritual power, one could also silently chant some spells in their mind. When the spiritual power flowed in various profound patterns in the body, one had to chant a spell. With the spell, a sonic shock would be then released in the spirit veins, stimulating the spirit veins to display the spiritual power. The process was somewhat complicated, but if one could get familiar with its application, they would be able to transform in a very short time. Just like Long Shui, she could transform in the blink of an eye. 3 days passed, Chen Shang had remained sitting cross-legged, without any movement. In his mind he heard Long Shui's series of crisp and clear laughter coming, and in his heart, he secretly despised her. Little girl, I still have not learned the application of the spiritual power. Wait for me to learn it, then I'll show you. Chen Shang said. He was telling the truth, it was indeed somewhat difficult to control the technique. He had spiritual power flowing through all his limbs and numerous bones, which were composed of various spirit veins linked together. He was attempting to trigger the effect of these spirit veins using the spell, and that way, he could transform his body. If he wanted to revert back, as long as the linked spirit veins were broken, he would immediately revert back. Once again, 3 days passed, when suddenly, a golden aura burst out from Chen Zhang's body. Chen Zhang's lips squirmed as he quickly chanted a spell, which was then followed by a flash of golden light, causing Long Shui to suddenly let out a tender cry. You actually learned it so quickly. Long Shui tenderly shouted. Chen Shang had indeed learned it, but now he could only transform into a small bird. He was fluttering his wings while flying inside the private room, and what made him feel mystical was that he did not feel any kind of change in his body whatsoever, nor any reduction in his strength. He could still use his true qi. Currently the divine soul is managing your body state, that's why in your sense, as long as you willed it, you will move. However, others would only see you flying. Long Shui said. Chen Shang indeed didn't need to control the flapping of his wings. With just a thought, he could move anywhere he thought. It was very mystical, and even if he had not transformed, he could still rely on his divine soul's spiritual power to make him levitate. This was the strongest ability of the Shinto. A thought suddenly arose in Chen Zhang's heart. He left through the window, then flew towards Elder Dan's residence. He has always been curious about Elder Dan's appearance, and now that he had the opportunity to peep, how could he let it go? After he transformed into a little bird, he had converged his breath, and he looked no different than any ordinary bird. You are so bad. You are not allowed to go. Long Shui, after seeing Chen Shang actually flew to peep, immediately shouted. I'm not going to look at her taking a bath, I will just peep at what's underneath that mask of hers. Chen Shang mischievously laughed and said. Humph, if you use the spiritual power to do this kind of nasty thing, I'm going to ignore you in the future. Long Shui angrily said. Little girl, didn't you often imitate me and speak some nasty things? Moreover, you yourself had also often peeped at Sister Meiyao and Sister Yu. Hey, haven't you also seen me? Chen Shang laughed and said. As of this moment he was hovering beside the already opened window of Elder Dan's residence. Chapter 228, Heavenly Dragon Seal. Chapter 228 Heavenly Dragon Seal. TLN. Sorry guys, first I was sick and then now I'm moving to Mumbai, so was busy this week, we will get back on schedule starting tomorrow. Long Shui softly snorted before speaking, that's different, I only peeked at you. You're not going to blame me or be angry. Besides, I only spoke those words to deepen the feelings between you and those girls. I was thinking about your well-being. Chen Shang flew into the room, but contrary to his expectations, he didn't find Elder Dan here, so he reckoned she was in her private room. It was not easy to enter the private room, so he intended to wait for her here. Nighttime came, and Chen Shang finally heard some sound. At this time, he had already consumed more than half of his spiritual power, however, he felt it was worth the effort. Very soon, he would be able to see Elder Dan's true appearance. After Elder Dan walked into the room, she took off her black gown first. Underneath the gown, she wore a snow-white longette, outlining her graceful figure. After removing it, she then proceeded to remove her mask. When Chen Zhang's anticipation had reached the extreme, Chen Shang fiercely started cursing, because Elder Dan's visage was covered in white light. She was actually so strict, and she would not allow anyone to see her face no matter what. But for what reason must she do this? Chen Shang flew away in disappointment. Elder Dan had already noticed that small bird, she felt strange and had intended to attack, but in the end, she didn't really take any action. Chen Shang was surprised in his heart, so sped up and hurriedly flew away. Elder Dan was a Nirvana realm martial artist, and just with an arbitrary wave of her sleeve, she could blast him to pieces. His whole body was drenched in cold sweat, so he decided not to do this kind of dangerous thing ever again. Haha, you've finally learned how to be afraid. Long Shui grinned and said, after returning, you should learn how to turn into a turtle. With his current spiritual power, he could only turn into some small-sized creatures. After returning, he learned to turn into a squirrel and a gopher, allowing him to hide in the wilderness. In order to be proficient in transformation, he practiced for 1 month. However, he was still not able to transform in the blink of an eye like Long Shui, he still required a few seconds before he able to transform. Chen Shang originally wanted to go to Yun Xiaodao and the others, however, he knew they were in special training, and it was the most efficient method to improve their strength. At the same time, various elders were guiding them in learning some powerful martial skills, as well as examining their shortcomings and improving their overall abilities. Visiting them would only cause them to be disturbed. These guys made it big time. So many old men are guiding them at the same time. Chen Shang laughed and said. Afterwards, he irrigated the various precious and rare herbs in the little herbal garden, and the 2 azure profound tree planted beforehand had already grown up. Soon, they would blossom. Of course, the 5-colored lotus he had planted had already began germinating. These 5-colored lotus were different from ordinary lotus. These lotus could be planted by just using the lotus seeds, and it also didn't require to grow in the water. They mainly relied on the absorption of the 5 elements spirit chi to grow. Elder Dan oftenly came to observe Chen Zhang's herbal garden. She discovered that the growth of the flowers and the plants in the herbal garden was very quick, and she had already guessed Chen Shang had some means to accelerate the growth of these spirit herbs. This was essentially heaven-defying, and at this point, she knew it was not some trivial matter, so she absolutely could not allow anyone to know or tell anyone. In order to solidify the defense of this small herbal garden, even Wu Qianchen couldn't casually enter. You also can't loaf around, by that time, you have to return alive. Elder Dan, while watching Chen Shang irrigate those spirit herbs, coldly spoke. I know, in any case I still have to beat you and then marry you. Although I don't know your appearance, your figure is still good and in line with my standards. Chen Shang grinned and replied. Elder Dan, seeing Chen Shang smiling mischievously, without even an ounce of tension, coldly harumphed before taking her leave. After irrigating the entire garden, Chen Shang returned to the private room and continued cultivation. He was now familiarizing himself with the various devil techniques and divine exercises, and at the same time, he was also preparing to learn an offensive spiritual power. Next is the spiritual power called Heavenly Dragon Seal. It is also one of the most terrifying spiritual power of my dragon clan. After casting, it would take away your spiritual power and a part of your true chi. Afterwards, it will be followed up with the absorption of a large amount of spirit chi in the surrounding before transforming into a huge dragon claw which will descend from the sky. Casting this spiritual power requires a little time, that's why it is only suitable to attack while hiding and attacking from a distance. Long Shui said. In order to learn this spiritual power, Chen Shang had no choice but to leave the extreme martial sect. He quietly went to the mountain forest outside the city to learn it, and just like the 72 transformations, he first needed to arouse the spiritual power to flow in his body, form profound spirit patterns, and finally chant the spell to cast it. However, it was different from the 72 transformations. The Heavenly Dragon Seal required true chi as well, and at this time, Chen Shang released a large amount of true chi. The true chi, under the guise of the mystical spiritual power, without any sound, aura or dissipation, quietly drifted away into the sky, before starting to absorb the spirit chi in the surroundings. Chant the spell, Long Shui shouted. Chen Shang hastily started chanting, however, the chanting was inaccurate, causing him to eventually fail. He had already failed more than 30 times, and if not for the large number of true elemental Dan he had used to restore his true chi, he simply could not even try it. Chen Shang had already stayed deep in the mountains for a month. During the day, he learned to cast the Heavenly Dragon Seal, while in the night, he cultivated while creating golden dragon saliva. He didn't loaf, this was all for the survival in the southern wasteland. In the evening, the clouds were surging high in the sky. If he didn't pay any special attention, it was very difficult to realize that a large amount of spirit chi in the radius of a couple li was already surging towards the peak of 100 or Zhonghai mountain. As Chen Shang was observing that very mountain from far away, his lips slightly moved, he was chanting some bizarre spell. Followed with the end of movement of Chen Zhang's mouth, a huge dragon claw, which was glistening in 5 to 6 colors, suddenly appeared at that mountain top. However, that dragon claw actually resembled that of a human's, it was devoid of any scales, but it had a hook-like claws. This was precisely the Heavenly Dragon Seal. It ruthlessly pressured down from the sky, and in the blink of an eye, it fiercely pressed upon the crest of that 100-so-high Zhong mountain. Followed by a thunderous and explosive sound coupled with a fierce tremor running through the ground, a large number of crushed stones and mud spread towards all 4 directions like smoke. In just a few blinks of an eye, that mountain was completely flattened. Fierce, Chen Shang dumbfoundedly exclaimed. He had not consumed much of his true chi and spiritual power, however, he was still able to create such an effect. If he had used some more of his strength, it would have been even more frightening. It was not very far from the Tianmen city, and he had actually created such a huge commotion. It would definitely be noticed by the extreme martial sect, so Chen Shang, at first notice, immediately left and returned back to the extreme Dan King courtyard. After arriving in the herbal garden, Chen Shang once again saw Elder Dan here. After Chen Zhang's disappearance, the entire herbal garden was taken care of by Elder Dan. She was an alchemist, so she naturally knew how to raise these spirit herbs, and she was even more serious than Chen Shang. She was actually more careful while taking care of the spirit herbs, even though she didn't really have a share in any of these spirit herbs. Once Chen Shang came in, he immediately noticed the 3 azure profound tree had already bloomed, the relatively older one had 50 flowers blooming, and as for the other 2, each had only 20, and regarding this kind of shocking matter, Elder Dan had long been accustomed to. Now, there was not even an ounce of surprise on her. The next time you leave for a long time, tell me before leaving. There was no one to tend to these spirit herbs, how would it grow well? Elder Dan had a look of reproach on her face while speaking. Chapter 229, Feeling Proud and Elated. Chapter 229 Feeling Proud and Elated. For a martial artist, 3 months weren't that long, and they very quickly passed. Chen Shang was now in the 3rd level of the true martial realm, and furthermore, he had already cultivated a couple of powerful devil techniques. His strength had gone beyond a 4th level true martial realm martial artist, and almost equal to a 5th level true martial realm martial artist. However, this was only true under the case in which he was facing ordinary true martial realm martial artists. If he encountered someone with a better spiritual vein, or with formidable martial skill, he would be no match for them. After Yuan Xiaodao and the others had their special training, Chen Xiang felt there was too big of difference between them from now and before. Each one of them had a great drive, had a very fierce momentum, and the true qi within their body was also very dense. At a moment's notice, they were all ready to go. What made him surprised was that Lei Xianglin and the others, these three, had actually entered the second level of the true martial realm. They had taken the second building foundation dan not long ago to advance, and during the 3 months of training, all of them had eaten a lot of good dans. These days, Chen Xiang had not seen Elder Dan at all. Elder Dan just said she was going to take a walk alone. You first say goodbye to your families, I'll take you to the meeting place after 3 days. Ji Yu Dongchen said. Yao Haisheng returned back to his residence. He had also planted some spirit herbs, and he needed to hand it over to someone to take care of them. Zhu Rong followed his uncle, Hao Dongqing, and left. As for Yuan Xiaodao and Xu Weilong, they left together and returned to their respective family. Chen Xiang also wanted to return to the secular world, but he didn't have enough time. He just decided to wait till his return from the southern wasteland, then he will take a trip back to visit his family and go take a look at the secular world. He was curious how much it has developed since he left. Qianqin, are you not going to go back? Chen Xiang asked. I'm not going to go, there is no one in my family. Wu Qianqin somewhat dejectedly replied. I'm sorry. Chen Xiang heaved a sigh in his heart and hastily said. Doesn't matter, I will first return to the extreme Dan King courtyard, I still have to learn alchemy. Wu Qianqin showed a bright and beautiful smile, she appeared to be one very strong girl. After Wu Qianqin walked, Chen Xiang looked at Lian Mingdong and the others, I decided to wait till we come back from that ghastly place, then we will go. Liang Mingdong smiled and said. Our families had already been devastated by those devil path bastards. If it wasn't for the dean, I would have already gone to kill 1 or 2 bastards personally. Lei Xianglin furiously said. No way, we have to listen to the dean. I also want to slaughter devil path guys. Lei Zhang, while scratching his head, said with a silly laugh. Then let's go for a drink, my treat. Chen Xiang laughed and said. While chatting, the 4 of them went towards the entrance, and just as they walked out of the door, they heard a howl from behind, You 3, stop. Chen Xiang and the others immediately turned around. They saw 10 or so boys coming from behind, and all of them were in the 10th level of the mortal martial realm. They had fierce expression on their faces, as though they were ready to strike at any moment. Before Chen Xiang came to know Lei Xianglin and the others, these 3 had already provoked some guys, and moreover, the guys they provoked were the ones who caused 2 of their companions to die. Are your 2 companions killed by them? Chen Xiang gloomily asked. Yeah, it's them. Father is definitely going to cripple these mongrels. Lei Xianglin clenched his fist and furiously replied. Chen Xiang nodded his head, kill 2 and cripple the others. What, kill 2? Lei Xianglin was slightly surprised for a moment. They were at the entrance of the extreme martial sect, so fighting was not a problem. However, if someone suddenly lost their life, the extreme martial sect was definitely going to care about it. Senior brother Chen, it is somewhat inappropriate. After all, we are still at the entrance. Liang Mingdong said with a frown. If you have to kill them, it's better to kill them in a place where no one is around. Lei Zhang was also somewhat worried. Chen Xiang laughed and said, Rest assured, you're going to the southern wasteland right away. Dean can't do anything to you, and besides, it is right and proper for them to pay life with life. They had killed 2 of your companions, and you should make them pay blood with blood. Good. Lian Mingdong's complexion turned ruthless as he nodded his head and spoke. Lei Xianglin clenched his fists tighter, then laughed and said, You group of bastards. Today, father will not let you off. While speaking, his brother rushed out, and Lian Mingdong followed behind them. These 3 were all rather speedy, and besides, they had not even used all of their power. The group of boys didn't even have the chance to dodge before the huge body of Lei Xianglin and Lei Zhang struck upon them. A few of them had flown about before colliding in the entrance's wall, causing them to lose their consciousness in an instant. Lian Mingdong was not as brutal as his 2 brothers. He used a fan and very lightly slapped upon those guys' faces. Even though his attacks seemed gentle, that fan was followed by howling winds, causing the tooth of those he struck to flew out as they spat out blood. This was the strength of the true martial realm. When they had encountered these guys before, they were just in the 10th level of the mortal martial realm. Even if they went all out, they weren't able to cause any injuries to these guys. However, now with just a casual attack of theirs, they had already heavily injured them. Are you all true martial realm martial artists? A young man asked. The previous handsome face of his was now beyond recognition due to the pounding of fists from Lei Xianglin. After Lei Xianglin and the others received training from the Elder Courtyard, it would be even difficult for martial artists who had been in the 2nd level of the true martial realm for many years to win against them. Besides, each of them was rather inherently talented, and their true chi as well was very vigorous. Right, go die, wastrels who are afraid of the strong and can only bully the weak. Lei Xianglin coldly said as he vigorously pounded a foot on that man's chest. In an instant, that man's chest was dyed in blood. Lian Mingdong opened his steel fan, lightly struck as he cut one man's throat, scaring the shit out of the rest from the group. The group was now aimlessly shouting, some were crying for help and some were begging for mercy. Brothers, let's go, let's drink. Chen Shang shouted. Lian Mingdong and the others were usually unbearably bullied by these aristocrats, but today, they could feel proud and elated. In their hearts, they were completely satisfied, and they knew that all they could have today was all given by Chen Shang. In the hotel, Chen Shang and the others were drinking while talking about ambitions, women and boasting about majestic deeds they had done in the past. When they returned from the hotel, it was already late at night. After Chen Shang entered the extreme Dan King courtyard, he saw a lamp lit in a room. It was Wu Qianshen's. Chen Shang had not seen Wu Qianshen for a long time. She was in possession of a fire spirit, and moreover, she was also an alchemist. Chen Shang had always been very curious about her whereabouts. He went over and knocked on Wu Qianshen's door. After Wu Qianshen opened the door and saw Chen Shang, she mischievously smiled and said, "Something wrong? Can't I come and find you without any reason at all?" Chen Shang laughed and said. Wu Qianshen welcomed Chen Shang into a small hall and offered him tea. Chen Shang, ask her to release the blue star fire, you also release a bit of your fire spirit. See what will happen after your heaven sun fire fused with hers. Long Shui curiously spoke. The fusion of flames released by different fire spirits was very rare, because not many people had a fire spirit. However, in the extreme Dan King courtyard, there were actually 3, and this was but a very rare opportunity. Chapter 230, Fire Spirit Fusion. Chapter 230 Fire Spirit Fusion. Su Meiyao's eyes lit up, and quickly urged Chen Shang to give it a try. Wu Qianshen was also hailed as a leader amongst the younger female disciples in the extreme martial sect. Not only was she a startling beauty, she was rather talented as well. Of course, the only reason she dared to go into the southern wasteland was because she had great confidence in her ability to survive. All of this stemmed from her having the blue star fire spirit. Qianshen, where have you been all these days? I missed you very much, but I couldn't find you. Elder Dan hid you very well. Chen Shang mischievously laughed and said. He was already acquainted with Wu Qianshen, which was why he could so openly joke with her. Wu Qianshen twirled her hair, it lay on her chest, making her appear even more charming and mature. It was a rather seductive scene. Did you really miss me? Wu Qianshen sweetly smiled. She was very strictly dressed, making Chen Shang somewhat disappointed, as he was not able to appreciate her graceful figure. Elder Dan instructed that I can't tell you. But, I can tell you, all this time I've been learning how to conceal my blue flame, look. After saying this, Wu Qianshen released a bundle of red flames. Elder Dan said that only after I reach the Nirvana realm do I not need to conceal my flame. Chen Shang laughed and said, Qianshen, can you release a tiny bit of your blue flame for me? That should be just about enough. Wu Qianshen didn't know what Chen Shang wanted to do, but she readily agreed, of course I can. If not for you, I wouldn't even be able to fuse with this powerful flame. When you were fusing with the blue star fire spirit, you were holding me so tightly, you even left scratches on my back, haha. Chen Shang laughed, making Wu Qianshen chuckle and also somewhat flushed red with shame. Wu Qianshen spread her jade-like palm, her pretty eyes staring at Chen Shang. She stuck her tongue out before she smiled and said, this flame is very powerful, be careful. While speaking, a bundle of blue flames appeared on her palm. Chen Shang carefully observed the blue star fire. He knew Wu Qianshen had gained a very high level of control over her flames. After all, even though she released extremely powerful flames, the temperature of the room didn't turn hot, and could even be said that it didn't change at all. Chen Shang suddenly extended his hand, and grabbed a hold of those blue flames, causing Wu Qianchen to tenderly shout out in fear. However, an even more astonished look soon appeared on her face. Originally, she thought Chen Shang would definitely be burned, but contrary to her belief, nothing actually happened. She herself started having doubts whether her blue star flame was actually hot or not. "Are you all right?" Wu Qianchen asked with a look of worry. "It's nothing." Chen Shang grinned before releasing his own fire spirit. Wu Qianchen just saw that blue flame on her palm being wrapped up by a seemingly ordinary heavenly sun flame of Chen Shang. Soon after, the blue flames began to change as the two flames started fusing together. Wu Qianchen was left in a trance after seeing this. She knew Chen Shang was very formidable, she was perfectly clear about this from the vermilion bird divine exercise she learned from him. After seeing her flames fuse with Chen Zhang's, she secretly reckoned Chen Shang also had obtained a fire spirit. The blue star flame is absorbing your heavenly sun flame, it's as if the heavenly sun flame is deliberately allowing the blue star flame to absorb it. These two fire spirits actually don't reject each other. Long Shui exclaimed in surprise. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu also held very strong interests regarding this matter. The blue-colored flame turned purple very, very slowly. The fire spirit was actually evolving, the previous blue flame had actually turned into purple flame after fusing with the heavenly sun flame. Chen Shang and Wu Qianchen were both extremely shocked. The heavenly sun spirit fire holds the title of the fire spirit king. This scene is actually not that surprising, sure enough, it is totally within my expectations, this dragoness is really too smart. Long Shui proudly said. Cannon behind the horse, I have not heard you talk about this before. Chen Shang retorted with his divine sense, splashing cold water on Long Shui. Chen Shang returned the flames to Wu Qianchen, which easily went back into her body. Chen Shang, do you also have a fire spirit? Wu Qianchen asked in a low voice with a perturbed look on her face. Chen Shang nodded his head, he knew Wu Qianchen had a fire spirit so it didn't matter too much if he also let her know he had one. Your fire spirit is very formidable, it could actually make my flame evolve. Wu Qianchen's pretty eyes twinkled. A trace of a charming smile appeared on her face, she was happy for Chen Shang. She knew that he was inherently a very talented alchemist, and if he didn't have fire spirit, that would definitely be regretful. If I have time, I'll think of more ways to make your fire spirit evolve. What exactly can we do? Chen Shang rubbed his chin while pondering this matter. Wu Qianchen felt a rush of warmth in her heart and tenderly said, if it brings negative effects on you, then forget it. For me, the blue flames are enough. I'll go and bring some dans refined by me for you to appraise. Just as Wu Qianchen turned around, Long Shui imitated Chen Zhang's voice and said, it might be possible with the integration of men and women, how about we try it and see? While Chen Shang was pondering, he heard Long Shui's words imitating his voice and it seemed like he was struck by lightning. He certainly thought about this approach, however, it was merely a thought. He couldn't fathom how this little girl had so many dirty ideas in her mind. It was alright if she said it out loud, but she should not have spoken while imitating his voice and that too in front of a girl. This totally ruined his positive image. Little dragoness, your father must have been a very dirty dragon, to actually have passed on so many shameful memories and ideas onto you. Chen Shang immediately cursed. When Wu Qianchen heard Chen Shang's words, she was immediately petrified then and there. She didn't expect Chen Shang to actually make such a request, even more so, this straightforwardly. That being said, it also seemed like it was for her well-being. Her face immediately flushed red all the way to the tips of her ears. The current mood was extremely embarrassing. Chen Shang could not wait to grab a hold of Long Shui and spank her little ass and see if she ever dared to talk nonsense again. Chen Shang forcefully coughed twice. Qianchen, show me the dans you've refined. Wu Qianchen also heaved a sigh. Both of them came to a tacit understanding to forget what happened just a moment ago. Chen Shang knew the mess had been swept under the rug and suddenly heaved a long sigh. Little dragoness, if you want to make trouble, don't do it in such a grand way. Someday, it will definitely come back to haunt me. This father's pure image is being ruined again and again by you. Pooh, you're pure. Last time you turned into a little bird and thought of peeking at Elder Dan bathing. Also, I was creating an opportunity for you. Originally Wu Qianchen only had a slightly good impression of you. But because you got entangled with her afterwards, she might be willing to do it with you. You're really stupid, such a great opportunity was actually missed by you. If it had come true, it would have been possible for you to relax before going to the southern wasteland. Long Shui tenderly snorted and said. Chen Shang didn't know what he should say. He suddenly felt he could not see Long Shui as a little girl anymore. She definitely had very rich experience regarding how to deal with the women. All male dragons are womanizers. She definitely inherited this trait from her father's side. Chen Shang, engrave this point in your mind. Perhaps you may be eaten by this little dragon in the future and not even your bones would be left. Su Meiyao said with a serious look on her face throughout her warning to Chen Shang before she broke down and started giggling. Chen Shang secretly cursed in his heart and thought, sooner or later, there will be a day where I'll eat you and not even leave your bones. Now Chen Shang knew the heavenly sun flame could evolve other fire spirits, but he had not found any other good ways to accomplish this feat. Otherwise, he could help Elder Dan and Wu Qianchen evolve both of their fire spirits to its highest peak. Chapter 231, Gather. Chapter 231 Gather. Wu Qianchen took out the dans she had refined. After Chen Shang saw them, he could not help but become astonished. True Elemental Dan, you can already refine it. Chen Shang took a true Elemental Dan in his hand and carefully observed it, top-grade quality. How many dans can you refine at once? I could only refine 3 dans. Wu Qianchen replied. Seeing Chen Shang with such an astonished expression, she was very happy in her heart. Chen Shang mischievously laughed. I can refine 5 dans, you have to work even more harder. I'll be waiting for the time when you are able to refine 5 dans in a single try. I'll help you with the ingredients for refining true Elemental Dan. Just give me 4 dans, and as for the last one, take it as your reward. As for the failed refinements, just leave it to me. Chen Shang had great amount of true Elemental Dan ingredients, however, he didn't have the time to refine. Even if he did, he would be refining the building foundation dans instead. For low-level dans, he would just go find someone else to refine it for him. As of now, he even disdained refining a true Elemental Dan which was already a relatively high-level Dan. If anyone knew that Chen Shang had such thoughts regarding such a precious Dan, they would definitely curse him to death. Wu Qianchen was exactly one of the best candidate. She had a fire spirit, and the dans refined by her were definitely not low in quality. If she spent a little more effort, it would not be a problem for her to refine 5 dans in a single try. Qianchen, can you refine other high-grade spirit-level dans? Chen Shang asked. Wu Qianchen shook her head. This is my limit, however, I will work hard. Wait for me to refine 5 true Elemental dans with 1 set of herbs, then I'll help you again in refining. Chen Shang chatted for a while with Wu Qianchen. He shared his own alchemy experience with her, and moreover, he had also given her 100 set of ingredients for refining the true Elemental dans. No matter how many you refine with 1 set of herbs, you will get 1 and leave the rest to me. Help me refine dans. This reward should be satisfactory. Chen Shang laughed and said, he knew that Wu Qianchen, with regards to herbs, was lacking. However, Chen Shang had a lot of those herbs. Very satisfactory, I'll try to refine more with 1 set. Wu Qianchen excitedly replied. It was not easy to find such a good job, and many alchemists, while refining dans, would extract some as their rewards. In this job, she could not only refine true Elemental dans, she would also receive such a large reward, which would leave many third-level alchemists envious. These 3 days were to allow the disciples to relax before going to the southern wasteland. Beside Chen Shang, the others were more or less somewhat tensed, because after they went inside, they would not only have to face the hidden danger inside the southern wasteland, they would also have to avoid getting hunted down by the powerful Devil Path martial artists. When all 10 participants gathered together, the all-day all-smiles Yun Xiaodao had now turned very serious. Beside greeting with Chen Shang, he had not spoken anything. It was evident that he was very tensed, and the others were also very much the same. Only Chen Shang had an easy look. Ji Yu Dongchen took out a huge flying disc and made Chen Shang and the others walk upon it. After all of them were standing on it, he controlled the flying disc and started flying in high speed. This is a brilliant weapon, Chen Shang exclaimed. There were a lot of spirit patterns on the flying disc, and all of them were very complex. After Chen Shang had obtained the refiner's scroll, he had already done a little research regarding this. Yes, it is refined by the Empress of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire. That woman completely cheated me in the deal. Ji Yu Dongchen had a trace of pained look, and this made Chen Shang secretly laugh. He didn't expect Lu Menger, this famous beauty, to actually be a profiteer. Ji Yu Dongchen and the others all knew Chen Shang was in possession of the black tortoise adamantine armor, as well as a terrifying broadsword. In addition to the vermilion bird firewings, his life-saving and escaping ability could be described as first class. That was why the other 9 were separated from Chen Shang, who had the guts to move alone and hunt Devil Path martial artists. This flying disc speed was very quick, even many times faster than when Chen Shang used the vermilion bird firewings. Chen Shang could see Ji Yu Dongchen had also consumed a lot of true qi. As for the rest, they were all sitting cross-legged on the flying disc, with eyes closed, evidently adjusting their state. The southern wasteland was in the south of the extreme martial sect. It was a mysterious zone, and in the heart of this region, even a martial artist at Ji Yu Dongchen's level didn't dare to recklessly enter. The flying disc continuously flew for 3 days before it finally arrived at the top of a high mountain. The crest of this mountain was flat, above which stood many people. It was clear that it was the better place to gather. Arrived, Ji Yu Dongchen said, causing everyone to wake up from their cultivation. All of them have been somewhat tensed, and they could only adjust their state this way. Humph, big sect being the big sect, is actually the last one to arrive. A cold snort came over, it was Tang Yichao from the true martial sect. Last time, he was almost killed by Chen Shang, so when he saw Chen Shang, his slaughter chi soared. As Chen Shang and the others came down from the flying disc, they saw other sect's disciples, accompanied by their respective sect's tycoons. Chen Shang immediately saw Lu Menjie, and what made him surprised was that, among the group of disciples behind her, Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulin were both present. Shui Shenxian wore a black outfit, while Leng Yulin wore a black armor. Both of them appeared to be domineering as they saluted towards Chen Shang. The dean of the Danxiang Taoyuan hadn't arrived, however, Hua Shangyu came. In fact, she was leading a team, and from this, it was clear how high her position was in the Danxiang Taoyuan. However, this seductive and charming stunner didn't even glance nor greet with Chen Shang, as if she didn't recognize him. Chen Shang secretly heaved a sigh. If Hua Shangyu had greeted him, it might have garnered some trouble, and after all, both Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulin both were. The man leading the beast martial sect looked like a minotaur. He was the new dean of the beast martial sect. The Lotus Island's master looked gentle and refined with his white robes and fair skin. That graceful appearance even made many other sects' female disciples occasionally glance over. As for the proud sword sect, it was led by a middle-aged man with extraordinary bearing. Although he wore simple garb, arrogance was brimming from his body. A long sword was on his back, and to Chen Zhang's surprise, among the disciples behind him, there was a familiar face. It was Gan Zhujian, the disciple whom Chen Shang had a conflict when he went to the Frozen Sword City. Yun Xiaodao, Zhu Rong and the others winked and smiled towards Chen Shang when they saw Leng Yulin and Shui Shenxian. Each one of them got secretly jealous of Chen Shang, and they were now totally convinced with what Chen Shang had said before. Shui Shenxian was indeed his fiancée, and Leng Yulin was his sworn sister. The Icewind Valley's disciples were led by Lu Menjie. It was already a well-known fact that the relation between the deans of the Icewind Valley and the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire, since the ancient times, had been very good. That was why everyone didn't feel that it was strange. Everybody, all of you don't want to lose to the Devil Path, right? Otherwise, each of our sects will be required to give them some resources, and if the Devil Path sects are allowed to grow, it will then become a threat to us. I don't think I need to explain further, I think all of you understand it. Ji Yu Dongchen said in a clear voice. Chen Zhang's strength is obvious to everyone, and the reason why he had enmities with some sect's disciples was not something intentional. It was all because he was compelled. This point, you should be clearer than me. In short, he cannot stay with us. Last time in the Frozen Sword City, he had annihilated a 100-man squad of Devil Yang clan, including 2 5th level, 3rd level, 2nd level and 1st level true martial realm martial artists. All in all, he had annihilated a team of more than 10. The Devil Yang clan hates him to the bone, and being together with us will only be cumbersome. The proud sword sect's dean coldly said. Although he said so, many disciples could not help but gulp down a cold lump. Chen was truly worthy to be an influential figure. One man had actually annihilated so many. Chapter 232, All by Himself. Chapter 232 All by Himself. Leng Yulin was somewhat unhappy. She had also done her part. Shenxian, at that time, had cut a 5th level true martial realm guy into a slag, yet this proud sword sect guy actually didn't even mention me. Leng Yulin said with a pout. She and Shenxian had once done special training together, and at this point, they had already become close friends. Although both of their personality was different, they still liked each other in their brief encounter. I'll speak openly then. After entering the southern wasteland, as long as anyone dared to move against Chen Shang, don't blame me for not being polite. If I came to know, humph, I'll not hesitate to move the whole elder courtyard and annihilate his sect. Ji Dongchen said in an ice-cold gloomy voice carrying slaughter chi, deterring many of the people present. Now Chen Shang had a bounty of 15 million crystal stones, and Ji Dongchen was also worried that some other sect's disciples would move against Chen Shang while inside the southern wasteland. He just warned them. Besides, what he spoke was completely determined to follow up. If Chen Shang was truly attacked by righteous sect disciples, he would absolutely annihilate their sect. A part of people standing dispelled the idea of moving their hands against Chen Shang. In their eyes, Ji Dongchen was a god of slaughter-like character, because they believed in the Black Tortoise mysterious realm. The beast martial sect's dean and many Nirvana realm tycoons there had been massacred by Ji Dongchen. It was why they totally did not held any doubt regarding Ji Dongchen's words. Chen Shang, you first enter the southern wasteland, be careful. Ji Dongchen said. Yes, Chen Shang replied. After this word left his mouth, he immediately disappeared, and his speed left some of the deans secretly shocked. All of them looked at the forest at the foot of the mountain, and they only saw a figure leaping on the trees. Chen Shang exerted a very exquisite qinggong while speedily treading on the leaves. After the disciples saw Chen Shang suddenly go further away with a shua, they were completely shocked in their heart. All of them secretly compared themselves with Chen Shang, and they immediately realized that there was too big of a difference between them and Chen Shang. Even if Ji Dongchen had not spoken, they would not be stupid enough to actually attack Chen Shang. It would be simply courting death. Chen Shang not attacking them would be considered very good. Lu Menger and Hua Shangyu had their eyebrows twitched after seeing Chen Zhang's hasty disappearance. They originally wanted to exhort Chen Shang, however, as the occasion was not appropriate, they could not speak with Chen Shang at all. Just as they wanted to use their divine sense, Chen Shang had already left. Lang Yulan and Shui Shenxian also nibbled their lips as they looked at the direction where Chen Shang disappeared. They certainly wanted to be together with Chen Shang, however, both of them had been arranged as the core of their squad. They knew that they could not be too selfish, otherwise, it would lead to destruction of their squad. We cannot fight a lone battle, we should all be together. This is a battle of survival. This not a fight to death, and everybody should be well aware of it. Ji Dongchen said. Now there was still some time before everyone would enter the southern wasteland, and Ji Dongchen wanted to convince the other sects to make them act together. Not good, the Devil Path disciples entered first, and they seemed to be very familiar with the inside. We be fighting against an invisible enemy, if so many encircled them at the same time, it would be very troublesome. The Lotus Island's master said. Lu Menger also nodded her head. Master Lian is right. I think we should act in accordance with the training and spread out, so that the Devil Path disciples also have to divide their attention to deal with us. Hua Shangyu said, fine, but let the disciples keep in contact with each other. Leave a mark or something and converge from time to time. The squads cannot be too far away from each other either. If something happened, then they can also act as support. While the discussion was going on, Chen Shang had already entered the southern wasteland. Anyone would have a strange feeling after entering the southern wasteland, and there was only a giant canyon as its safest entrance. If someone wanted to enter from somewhere else, then they would have to cross over a few thousand zhang high giant mountain, and in these mountain, they would not only be required to resist the cold, they would also have to deal with some highly toxic poisonous creatures. The southern wasteland was very big, furthermore, it also had a naturally formed giant mountain range surrounding it tightly. Inside it was even more gloomy, it had many bizarre trees with extremely terrifying appearances. In that canyon entrance, Chen Shang saw two men wearing a black robe. They had a gloomy complexion, as well as a bizarre evil aura. With a single glance, it was clear that they were terrifying martial artists from the Devil Path sects. You call this kind of guys devil cultivators? They should be called as evil devils. Bai Yu said with a cold snort. She was also a Devil Path cultivator, however, there was not a trace of hostility on her body, her cultivation had not advanced by killing a pile of humans. After the Devil Path and righteous candidates were determined, both sides would present their list to another, so that the other party could make arrangement in advance and enter. Brat, are you a righteous sect disciple? What is your name? A black-robed man coldly asked. Chen Shang. Hearing these two characters, the two black-robed men could not help but stare. They carefully looked at Chen Shang, and gradually, a cold smile appeared on their face. Enter. A black-robed man sneered and said. Chen Shang flew away and entered the canyon. Little dragon, you cannot be lazy now. Chen Shang shouted with his divine sense. Rest assured, if you die, I will not have things to eat. Although you are somewhat bad, it is very difficult to find someone stupid like you to live. Long Shui replied in laziness. The southern wasteland was very desolate, and although there were some forests and river streams, they were all shrouded in darkness. These river streams and trees looked black, giving off a jittery feeling. Inside it was very quiet, however, occasionally, some hair-raising shrieks could be heard. If some timid people came in, they would definitely be scared to death. Chen Shang, don't you think Lian Mingdong and the Lotus Island's master look somewhat similar? Su Meiyao suddenly asked. Listening to her speak as such, Chen Shang also felt the same. Besides, he discovered that when they got down from the flying disc, Lian Mingdong's complexion was somewhat strange. The Lotus Island master seemed to be also surnamed Lian. Bai Yuyu said. While rushing, Chen Shang suddenly stopped. Zhu Rong had thoroughly checked Lian Mingdong's background, however, now that Su Meiyao mentioned this matter, he could not help but suspect whether there was some relation between Lian Mingdong and the Lotus Island master. Is he the son of the Lotus Island master? Or an illegitimate child? Or because he had poor talent, he was abandoned? Su Meiyao asked. Women always like to snoop on these kind of things. I don't know, wait for me to leave this place, then I'll ask him. Chen Shang walked towards a forest which was also the most likely place to get ambushed. Chen Shang was now precisely trying to find the Devil Path disciples to kill. This was the mission given to him by Jiyu Dongchen and the others. Through the forest, everything was somewhat calm. Any kind of dangerous stuff didn't occur. Chen Shang changed his own appearance a bit, and he was now in the periphery of the southern wasteland. There was no danger here. If they decided to hide in the periphery, they simply need to defend against the Devil Path disciples. I have always felt that these Devil Path guys have planned something nasty. They went through so much trouble to do something big, maybe they have arranged a few hundred people inside to ambush. Bai Yuyu said. Just as her words resounded in Chen Zhang's ears, Chen Shang suddenly felt some movement all around him. It seemed that he was surrounded. Chapter 233, Puppet. Chapter 233 Puppet. Chen Shang stood there in silence as he looked all around him. He had heard a very weak sound a moment ago, and Long Shui also said she had sensed people all around him. Above, Long Shui shouted. Chen Shang raised his head, a large net covering him down came into his view. Chen Shang pointed his palm towards the net, and a fire column from his palm shot out, burning out a big hole in that net. Chen Shang coldly snorted, insignificant skill. It should be a spirit weapon, however, after encountering this powerful heavenly sun fire, it could only admit defeat. Shua, Shua, Shua. Suddenly 10 black-robed men wearing black hood appeared all around Chen Shang. Each of them was holding a black executioner's blade while a noxious aura was being released from their body. It was so dense, as if it was coming out from a pile of corpses. All of a sudden he met 10 Devil Path disciples, and Chen Shang felt somewhat happy. His purpose to come here was precisely to kill. These 10 guys are weird, you should be careful. I feel they have a strange power, like a kind of strange divine sense. They seem to be manipulated. Long Shui exhorted, her voice sounded very serious. This left Chen Shang secretly surprised. All these 10 people were actually being manipulated. Now he was even more sure that the Devil Path must have planned something. They didn't give him much chance to think as 5 blades swooped down swiftly and violently. A black chi aura emerged from all of their executioner's blade. When they were hacking down, a piercing sound echoed out, which was then followed by blade chi drawing deep marks one after another on the ground. It was a very powerful attack. However, while they were in the air coming down, Chen Shang used some mysterious agility technique and jumped in the air just before their blades were about to fall on him. He still had a lingering fear, because according to his estimation, even a 6th-level true martial realm martial artist would be cut down by those attacks. If they wouldn't die, then at least they would be crippled. Very dense devil chi. How the hell did they cultivate? This kind of devil chi could only be cultivated by killing others. Bai Yuyu sounded uncertain and solemn. Chen Shang, be careful, this southern wasteland definitely holds some kind of important secret. Just as Chen Shang jumped into the air, those 5 black-robed men who had not attacked a while ago fiercely jumped up as Chen Shang fell down. In the blink of an eye, they came to his side, and those 5 once again brandished their blade towards Chen Shang. These 5 actions were the same as before, and they even used the very same kind of chi aura, as if these 5 black-robed men were of the same body. While jumping in the air, Chen Shang had already started operating his black tortoise true chi. At this moment, the black tortoise Luo Tian cover enshrouded his body, and those 5 blades carrying noxious chi aura chopped down at the same time, bursting out with a very intense power. With them as the center, the chi waves spread across, as if a storm was swooping down on the forest. Chen Shang landed on the ground, the black tortoise Luo Tian cover on him was actually fine. Although it was a lot thinner, it had completely resisted the attack a while ago. The black tortoise Luo Tian cover was casted out using his 3rd level true martial realm true chi, and yet it was extremely tough. He was now able to determine that what Long Shui had said before about these 10 people was true. All of them were being manipulated, and that puppeteer's divine sense had a limit. He could not attack Chen Shang with different methods through these 10 black-robed men. That's why everyone's action was the same, and every time, only 5 of them could launch an attack. This was precisely their weakness. And a very fatal one at that. If he could not resist the attack of these 10 people at the same time, then he would have never found this weakness. Chen Shang suddenly disappeared. To be exact, he had silently vanished into the forest. With a very quick speed, he shuttled through the forest. Although the speed he broke out with was not lasting, his speed had still reached a point where his figure could not even be seen anymore. Coupled with the convergence of his breath and the help of the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, it was as though he had completely disappeared. Those 10 people were being manipulated, and naturally, they could not sense Chen Shang. Chen Shang reckoned that the puppeteer was within the vicinity. The 10 black-robed men stood still motionless. It was clear that the puppeteer was waiting for Chen Shang to appear. He was also looking for Chen Shang, but because he could not find him, he could only wait, unable to use those 10 puppets at all. Chen Shang suddenly appeared, and once he appeared, he smacked a palm upon a black-robed man. In succession, he came beside another black-robed man, and one after the other, he smacked a palm on those black-robed men. Almost in the blink of an eye, he was already finished. Those 10 palm Chen Shang had smacked appeared very common, but he had utilized a very formidable devil technique he had learned not so long ago, the transforming bone devil palm. He was now standing in the center of those 10 black-robed men as each of them gradually fell down. It appeared as if all of them could be folded at will, because all of them didn't have any bone left in them. As they were all puppets, they naturally didn't know any pain, that was why it looked very strange. If these 10 puppets dealt with any ordinary 5th level true martial realm martial artists, they were more than enough. However, encountering Chen Shang, they were simply rendered useless. Of course, if Chen Shang chopped off their hands, or ruthlessly smacked a palm, he could not make these puppets fall down. But now these puppets had no bones, and since the bones were fundamental to the body, although they were all alive, they had already been destroyed. Chen Shang secretly praised the strength of the devil techniques. Before, he had only tried it on some stones, so it was his first time utilizing it on a human now. Found him. Haha, this guy is definitely anxious. He had momentarily become negligent and released a lot of divine sense, revealing himself. Long Shui laughed and said as she immediately told that hidden puppeteer's location to Chen Shang. After knowing that puppeteer's location, Chen Shang coldly smiled. He suddenly smacked a palm ruthlessly on the ground, which was then followed by a sudden burst of fierce tremor. All around the trees moved as if they were on the crest of billowing waves moving up and down in the seas. All of it was only because of Chen Zhang's palm, yet everything turned as if a violent storm and roaring waves were surging across the sea. Chen Shang had used the universe true chi to cast the shocking heaven palm, which had caused the earth to tremble and the mountains to shake. It was incomparably overbearing, causing a large patch of ground to suddenly turn over. Hit, that guy should be spitting blood. Long Shui tenderly laughed and said. That man hid in the ground, and that shocking heaven palm of Chen Shang even shook the ground across a mountain. Chen Shang slightly smiled. Facing the ground, he continuously struck that overbearing and terrifying shocking heaven palm. At this moment, the entire southern wasteland had bellows of thunderous noise as if a lightning was blasting out one after the other. Ji Yu Dongchen and the others outside looked at the southern wasteland in surprise. They didn't expect Chen Shang, as soon as he entered, would immediately make those devil path disciples pay. After 10 palms struck on the ground, Chen Zhang's location had been turned into a few hundred zhang deep pit. Chen Shang also saw a barely recognizable human figure counting his last breath. It was a middle-aged man with blood oozing out from his 7 apertures, having an incomparably hideous appearance. Still not dead, use the grasping soul devil curse to ask him. Bai Yu said. She was very interested in those 10 puppets, and she was also curious at that kind of devil chi. Chapter 234, Human Devil. Chapter 234 Human Devil. After Chen Shang had completely learned the grasping soul devil curse, his utilization became even more sophisticated. With one hand on that man's head, he chanted some spell, and at the same time, he poured in his divine sense into that man's head. What are those 10 men? Chen Shang asked. Although the guy was half dead, after Chen Shang had used the grasping devil soul curse, he suddenly opened his eyes, and with a completely lifeless face, he blandly spoke, "Human devil." Human devil. Hearing these 2 words, Bai Yu exclaimed. Sister Yu, do you know what a human devil is? Chen Shang knew this matter was nothing trivial, or it could not surprise this ice-cold beauty Bai Yu. I know, this guy is about to die. First ask him what you want to know quickly, wait for now, I'll tell you about the human devil later. Bai Yu replied. Chen Shang continued asking that man, are you devil path disciples? How many disciples in total do you have? How did you come in here? Yes, there are 50 of us, and we have come here 3 years ago. That man replied. The answer left Chen Shang frozen for a moment. These people actually came here 3 years ago. Chen Shang once again asked, in addition to your 50 people, are there any other devil path disciples? There's also another 50. The man finished speaking, closed his eyes and died. Although he hid under the ground, Chen Zhang's shocking heaven palm across the thick layer of soil had also caused a great harm to him. Enduring 10 of those palms was already not bad. Chen Shang coldly said, devil path sects are really harboring bad intentions. They had actually concealed 50 people, and besides, they also knew how to manipulate those puppets. Sister Yu, what is the human devil? You first leave here. As you walk, I'll tell you. This place is not suitable for you stay for long, their people will come here because of the ruckus you've caused. If you encountered some powerful human devil, it will be very troublesome. Bai Yu urged. Chen Shang immediately started rushing as he quickly left the forest he himself had devastated not so long ago. He soon entered a big mountain. Human devil itself is a human, but after the absorption of a kind of devil chi, they become very strong, but at the same time, they will also lose their intellect, turning into a devil who only knows how to kill. However, once they are deprived of their divine sense, it can be possible to manipulate them using divine sense. Bai Yu explained. A kind of devil chi. What devil chi? Chen Shang said in a surprised tone, so wouldn't there be a lot of these kind of things? It's a kind of peculiar devil chi, an extremely evil devil chi which has been precipitating for many years. It is only released after the death of the invaders from the devil domain. In the southern wasteland, a large number of devil domains people had definitely died here. Bai Yu's tone became solemn. I think some devil path sect's disciples must have come here to cultivate and absorb these devil chi, which caused them to be turned into a human devil. And now they are being manipulated by the devil path disciples through some secret methods. While running, Chen Shang suddenly came to stop. He looked all around and took a deep breath before speaking. If some powerful spirit beasts came to absorb these devil chi, wouldn't they also become even more powerful and kill humans whenever they see them? Bai Yu responded, the most dangerous part of the southern wasteland should come from these spirit beasts who have absorbed these devil chi. Generally, they are called as devil beasts. Su Meiyao asked, Senior sister, can these devil beasts be manipulated by these devil path disciples? Although it is possible, it is very difficult to manipulate them. Spirit beasts are not same as humans. If it was by someone more powerful than those devil beasts, it should be easier to manipulate them. Bai Yu said. Chen Shang clenched his teeth and cursed, devil path, these mongrels, no wonder, they still proposed to hold a competition here, they had already entered this place long ago. They have already planned this, no way, I'm going out to tell them. Too late, they should have entered by now. Just a moment ago, I sensed many powerful aura coming from the canyon entrance. It should be those deans who have gathered there. Long Shui said. There were 100 devil path disciples in here, and not one of them was weak, who knows how many human devils they could manipulate. For the righteous sect disciples, this was very adverse. Besides, there was also the threat from those devil beasts, and only God knows how powerful they were. They were the most terrifying existence in here, otherwise, the Nirvana realm martial artists would not be afraid to come. I need to find them. Chen Shang, while speaking, ran towards the direction of the canyon entrance. In the depths of this southern wasteland, there are certainly some very powerful devil beasts and human devils. I'm afraid even those deans have no way to manipulate them. Bai Yuyu said. Long Shui said, fortunately, there is a natural array which can quell those guys. But once they came out, that would be very troublesome. Su Meiyao suddenly said in a solemn voice, do you still remember that just a moment ago, they had used a net to deal with Chen Shang? Under normal circumstances, it should have been a surprise attack. After those 10 people attacked Chen Shang at the same time, they had used net, and moreover, they even exposed themselves. Bai Yuyu said, right, they must have wanted to catch Chen Shang. Did they also want to catch others? Why? Long Shui suddenly exclaimed, sacrifice. Hearing that word, Bai Yuyu and Su Meiyao both were shocked speechless. Especially Bai Yuyu, she immediately coldly said, Chen Shang, we must definitely stop these guys. They must be planning to perform a living sacrifice. They must be planning to do it in the cemeteries of those devils from the devil domain. There must be an altar, however, they don't want to open a passage to the devil domain. To be precise, they only want the help of some powerful expert from the devil domain to dispel the array here, so that these powerful human devils and devil beasts could break away from the seal. Or maybe, they are planning to awaken a formidable guy. Long Shui added. Their words scared the hell out of Chen Shang. If that was the case, even before the three-realm catastrophe arrived, the Chenwu mainland would be finished. He didn't expect the Devil Path sect to actually have such a terrible conspiracy. He should immediately tell Jiyu Dongchen and the others. Chen Shang suddenly halted his footsteps. While looking at each and every mountain in front of him, he frowned and said, did I took the wrong way? How come I've not seen the canyon yet? Wrong. Big trouble, the road is blocked. In the end, what happened? Chen Shang looked at the ground. He was looking for the mark he left. He discovered, he was on right track. Hooray! Anyone who entered it would have a difficult time to go out. The large formation in here might have been aroused by someone. The southern wasteland is not like this before. As long as someone did not enter the depths, then they could still come out. Su Meiyao said in a heavy tone. Chen Shang released his vermilion bird firewind and flew towards the sky. But when he touched the black clouds, an evil power suddenly attacked him. He only saw a red lightning falling towards him as he immediately released the black tortoise adamantine armor to resist it. However, from the impact of that strong power, he still pounded on the ground. Very strong restrictive spell. No wonder it could seal those devils, and there must be a way to leave. It seems that now you cannot contact the outside. Su Meiyao said. Chen Shang cursed, then looked at the ground. He was trying to find the footprints left by others, however, he could not find any, as if they had been covered. These deans are the same as a group of pigs. They have all been plotted by the devil path, but it's us who are miserable. Chen Shang swore it in his heart, as long he was alive, he would definitely ruthlessly curse those deans without any pause. Chen Shang was helpless, he could only casually run in a direction. As long as he could meet those devil path disciples, only then could he force out the knowledge he want, and maybe this way, he could also find the way out. I'll definitely drown Lu Menger, this woman, in torrents of curses. She actually allowed Shenxian and Yulin to come to this kind of ghastly place. Chen Shang forcefully smiled and said, Xiao Dao, Lao Zhu, Squinted Dragon, Qianqin. I've harmed you. Chapter 235, Devil Palm's Might. Chapter 235 Devil Palm's Might. Chen Shang aimlessly ran in the southern wasteland, however, he still left marks here and there, lest he himself get lost. He wanted to find those righteous sect disciples and ask them not to enter the depths of the southern wasteland. If they encountered those powerful devil beasts and human devils, they would certainly meet their doom. All of you come out. Don't hide, I know where you are. Chen Shang, just as he entered a mountain corner littered with stones, suddenly stopped. Some people were here to ambush him. It was Long Shui who had told him, because he, Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu actually didn't sense anything. It was possible that the concealing ability of these devil path disciples was very high, and this made Chen Shang secretly worried. Even he himself was not able to discover these devil path disciples. What about the others? Worthy of the youngest first martial artist of the extreme martial sect. A sound filled with surprise came from behind a boulder. All of them were very confident regarding their own concealing abilities, however, they have actually been discovered by Chen Shang. At this time, they finally realized that Chen Zhang's reputation was not unearned. A total of 5 black-robed men wearing a mask appeared. They were exactly the same as the guy Chen Shang had encountered before who was manipulating the human devils. Are you those people who came here 3 years ago? Chen Shang asked, and at the same time, he was also telling these Devil Path disciples that their plans have already been known by him. Indeed, after those 5 black-robed men heard Chen Shang, they were all secretly surprised. So you've already met those group of people? Not bad. Indeed 3 years ago, a bunch of people came here. We came in later though. A black-robed man said. It seems the man you met is already dead, how much do you know? Another black-robed man asked. I don't know much, I only know you can manipulate some ghastly things, and I also know that you Devil Path disciples are all a bunch of mangy dogs. Chen Shang sneered. Hey, don't curse the wrong people. It's none of our business, we only came to know after coming in. You should curse the people on top of us. To tell you the truth, we don't even know how to manipulate those kind of ghastly things. Another black-robed man said. Chen Shang was somewhat surprised. These Devil Path disciples appeared to be pretty ethical and fair, however, Chen Shang didn't let his guard down. Do you not know that the road we came in had already disappeared? Or is it you are not worried about not getting out? Are you not afraid of encountering those even more powerful ghastly things? Chen Shang coldly snorted. We certainly know, but it's not like we have any other alternative. We only came in to fight with you, we are only responsible to consume your strength, while the other guys are responsible for manipulating those things to kill you. Another black-robed man said. Chen Shang retreated a few steps, put on a false smile and said, Are you going to attack together, or do you plan to take turns? We'll fight you in turns. We all are the strongest and youngest disciples among the Devil Path sects. We would like to experience your righteous sect's most powerful martial artist. A black-robed man stepped forward and took out a black long spear. A bloody red aura was gushing out from the spearhead, shooting noxious chi everywhere. It appeared very frightening. Chen Shang felt that overbearing and bizarre evil true chi and said, Devil Yang True Chi, Devil Yang clan, I have already slaughtered a lot of true martial realm martial artists of your Devil Yang clan. The black-robed man sneered and said, Don't talk about those trash with me, I'm different from them. Chen Shang also sneered and said, In my eyes, you and those trash are no different. His words just fell, before that long spear, which was permeating red noxious chi, stabbed over. It was also very fast, as if a red beam was shot towards Chen Zhang's throat. That long spear directly passed through Chen Zhang's throat. That black-robed man didn't expect that he would so easily succeed. However, soon he realized that there was no bleeding from the wound. Chen Zhang's figure burst open and transformed into mist. This was Chen Zhang's water mirror technique. In addition to a high-speed movement, a virtual image was created from mist to confuse his enemy. After that black-robed man realized that he had been tricked by Chen Shang, he immediately became vigilant. Humph, this trick is nothing. That black-robed man fiercely turned around, and Chen Shang had suddenly appeared in front him. Seeing that leisurely palm strike of Chen Shang, the black-robed man extended his own palm to meet it with Chen Zhang's, but it was to no avail. On Chen Zhang's mouth, a sliver of proud smile appeared. After the two palms collided, Chen Shang immediately jumped back as a blood-curdling shriek came from that black-robed man. That arm of his flexibly bent down, it appeared as if it was made of rubber. A moment ago, Chen Shang had used the transforming bone devil palm, directly melting away the bones in that black-robed man's arm. In that instance, the victim would feel as though ants were gnawing away his bones, and the outbreak of pain was in an instant, causing an excruciating pain. My arm, what did you do to me? Why don't my arms have any bones? That black-robed man shouted in madness, his voice was filled with panic. He didn't expect the world would actually have this kind of martial skill. Without even injuring the flesh and blood, the technique actually directly melted away the bones. This martial skill was surely a devil technique. No, it's not really a big deal. In any case, you are going to die. Chen Shang laughed. In his hand, a black crossbow appeared. It was the demanding life devil bow. As he poured in his true chi, a black arrow was shot out in the blink of an eye, penetrating that black-robed man's throat. The black-robed man gradually fell down as blood kept on gushing from his throat. The other 4 black-robed men were stunned. At the beginning, the black-robed men were so confident, as if they had already won. However, now that death had come so fast, his powerful martial skills and vigorous true chi were already all in vain. He didn't even have the time to display them as a very small thing had shot through his throat, rendering him to die while basking in his own pool of blood. From start to finish Chen Shang was very relaxed. He was talking cheerfully and wittily, and then suddenly, he took away the life of one of the strongest and youngest devil path martial artists. The other 4 could not help but become frightened. At the same time, they realized that they could not look down upon Chen Shang again, otherwise, their fate would be the same as that black-robed man whose throat was still bleeding profusely. Chen Shang shook his head and laughed. Originally, you had 5 people all together, and perhaps had the hope to win, however now, too late. While speaking, his figure suddenly vanished, and the world became incomparably quiet. Those 4 men held their breath, in order to probe Chen Zhang's location. However, for a long time, as Chen Zhang's figure didn't reappear anymore, all of them just released their vigorous true chi to form a true chi armor which protected the weakest spot of their bodies. The demanding life devil bow, in the hands of Chen Shang, if used well, could kill an extreme state martial artist without any difficulty. Those 4 black-robed men thought that if they remained still and wary of their surroundings, they would remain safe. However, at this time, they suddenly felt some true chi fluctuations coming from the ground. They wanted to jump, but soon to their surprise, they weren't able to. They lowered their head and only saw that their feet were wrapped around by some water-like thing. When they thought of using their true chi to disperse it, an intense electric current flowed out from that water vine. The sudden electric shock had rendered their bodies numb, and just as they realized how dire the situation was, Chen Shang suddenly appeared. Chapter 236, Dangerous Encounter. Chapter 236 Dangerous Encounter. Chen Shang had utilized the abstruse black tortoise divine exercise and sensed the moisture in the ground. Through that moisture, he poured in the black tortoise true chi and transformed it into powerful water vines. With his divine sense manipulating those water vines, they wrapped around the 4, and then released the lightning force in the azure dragon true chi, jolting the 4 black-robed men. For a short time, those 4 could not compose themselves, and they had no way to raise their guard and defend themselves. Chen Shang seized this opportunity and took out that domineering azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, horizontally cut towards the 2 relatively closer black-robed men. That one strike had enough true chi, and moreover, those 2 black-robed men could neither move nor resist, that's why Chen Shang very easily cut off their waist. Once the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade was drawn, that overbearing dragon might rendered the remaining 2 black-robed men to shudder in fear. Chen Shang naturally knew the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade caused a great deterrent to those martial artists who were cultivating in the devil path. Just the same as Bai Yu, touching the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade would make them feel uncomfortable. It would be greatly lethal to the individuals from the devil domain, because it could directly break those powerful devil chi. After Chen Shang killed those 2 people, in a flash, he arrived beside another black-robed man. This black-robed man's feet were still wrapped in water vines, and in his heart, he secretly complained. He was a devil path disciple, but even he didn't have so many sinister tricks. Chen Zhang's tricks just were endless and very hard to detect. However, that black-robed man also had prepared a good defense. Outside his body, there was a thick layer of chi or a shield. Chen Shang smiled in contempt before brandishing his broadsword. As the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade glittered in azure aura, he fiercely cut across, breaking away that black chi aura shield very easily, and cutting that black-robed man into 2 from his waist. Once again, another one died, and the last remaining black-robed man felt endless regret. If they had done as Chen Shang had said, to deal with Chen Shang together from the get-go, they would not have fallen into such a miserable condition. Chen Shang retracted the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, and through his feet, he poured in more black tortoise true chi into the ground, so that the water vine would entangle that black-robed man even more tightly, disabling the need to use the lightning force to shock him. As he came in front of the black-robed man, Chen Shang together extended his palms together as boundless palm shadows whipped over and completely struck on that black-robed man's body. All of them were the transforming bone devil palm. The black-robed man didn't expect Chen Zhang's means to actually be even better than the devil path sect. Those attacks could actually cause him to feel such immense pain, as if hundreds of thousands of insects were gnawing his body. He only felt his bones were accompanied by a burning itch, before they slowly disappeared. That man flexibly fell down, lying paralyzed on the ground. However, he was still alive. The black-robed man thought that those devil techniques of their devil path sect compared with Chen Zhang's technique were simply children's stuff. Only the techniques utilized by Chen Shang could be called as devil techniques. Even when he casted those techniques, it might be said that there was no sign of any fluctuations of any sort. However, after he struck, the bones would be melted away, and moreover, it would instantly generate an excruciating pain. Only now did he realize why that black-robed man's arm suddenly became soft while battling with Chen Shang a while ago. Still a long way to go. Chen Shang shook his head and smiled. Those black-robed men were only in the 3rd or 4th level of the true martial realm, and even if Chen Shang had fought all alone, they still didn't stand a chance at all, not to mention Chen Shang could battle unconstrained. Why have you not killed me? Don't expect me to answer any question. Chen Zhang's hand was already on that black-robed man's head. He was using the grasping soul devil curse on him as he asked, "Do you know how to leave the southern wasteland?" "I know. According to the Dean, as long as we have captured 30 righteous sect's disciples and placed them on the sacrificial altar, we can go out." The black-robed man replied. Chen Shang took a deep breath. Su Meiyao had guessed correctly, the devil path were really planning to sacrifice the disciples of the righteous sects. After all, the majority of the righteous sect disciples cultivate pure true qi, which was most liked by the devil path. "Where is the sacrificial altar?" Chen Shang asked. The black-robed man, whose mind was being manipulated by Chen Shang, readily told him the way to the sacrificial altar, and also in a very great detail. "Where are the rest of you?" That black-robed man told Chen Shang about 3 places. He vividly described the route to Chen Shang. Each of these 3 locations had 3 people respectively, and not one of them were weak. All of them were waiting to ambush some righteous sect disciples, and their purpose was to consume the true qi of the righteous sect disciples, so that they could be caught by those puppets manipulated by the devil path disciples. These devil path guys would never expect that besides their father, also have 2.5 very capable women. This had enabled me to see through their trick. In the end, your plans would be all destroyed by father. Chen Shang coldly laughed, then chopped off the head of that black-robed man. He then beheaded the rest of them and placed their heads inside his storage ring. After he leave this damned place, these things were rather good to increase his prestige, otherwise, under his brutal means, not even a scrap of those 5 black-robed men would be left. "Why did you say 2.5 women? Obviously, it's 3, Long Shui asked in uncertainty. "You can only be counted as half." Chen Shang laughed and said. "Why, I'm not a child. You said yourself you cannot treat me as a child." Long Shui retorted in dissatisfaction. Hey, little dragon, you are too dirty, it might be said you don't even act like a woman. That's why you can only barely be counted as half." Chen Shang laughed and said. Now that he had acquired a direction, he already knew where to go. Long Shui tenderly snorted and said, "I'm being dirty only for your well-being. My good intention had all gone down the drain. Since you said so, I'll play downright dirty and let everyone know how obscene you are." Chen Shang was not afraid. Even if Long Shui had not spoken as such, he would still be framed by her from time to time. From the black-robed man, he came to know that this place had long been prepared by them. He had also discovered that they also used some means to lure the righteous sect disciples, so that they could ambush them. If the righteous sect disciples who had entered this place did not have enough information, then they would be very easily lured away if they were not careful. Chen Shang started walking and ran towards one of the closest ambush point among the 3. No matter which righteous sect disciple was it, he still needed to help them, because it concerned the overall situation. In case that there were 30 sacrifices enough to go to the altar, then it would rather be troublesome. The Devil Path sect's high-level executives didn't even dare to catch the true martial realm martial artists, because the true martial realm martial artists were smaller in number. Even more so, they were all very cautious. Usually, all of them stayed inside the sect and was very hard to capture. If they were not the righteous sect's disciples, their true qi would not be pure enough, and hence, they could not be offered as a sacrifice. Chen Shang rushed for half an hour as he ran towards the depths of the southern wasteland, though the sacrificial altar was even more deeper. There is a sound of fighting. Chen Shang stopped and listened carefully. He suddenly heard a few cold and tender shouts. It was Leng Yulin's voice. Chen Shang could not help but hasten his footsteps. In the blink of an eye, he suddenly vanished, as though he was a lightning that struck towards that direction. Soon, Leng Yulan and Shui Shenxian, these two beautiful and graceful women, came into his view. Both of them were together with their respective sect disciples. The Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire and the Icewind Valley were together, and they had a total of 13 people. At the moment, all of them were still alive, however, they were now being surrounded by a pack of more than 100 pitch-black wolves. It's the devil beasts, and they are being manipulated. Chen Shang immediately determined. When a few of these black wolves flew over, their movements were all the same, and it was clear that they were being manipulated. Chapter 237, Counterattack in the Wasteland Part 1. Chapter 237 Counterattack in the Wasteland Part 1. The disciples of two sects, the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire and the Icewind Valley, were all very strong, and their overall strength was also not bad. When those black wolves swooped over, the Icewind Valley disciples immediately released an ice-cold chi aura, and in the blink of an eye, those black wolves were frozen. Very quickly, they were beheaded by Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulan under the watchful gaze of the other disciples, lest Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulan were attacked by someone else. Chen Shang knew they were all together during their training, and they all went through Lu Menger's training. That was why all of them worked well together, which reassured him a lot. Shui Shenxian was using a white long spear which appeared to be somewhat similar to Lu Menger's Kiss of the Jade Dragon. Apparently, it was forged by Lu Menger for Shui Shenxian, and Shui Shenxian seemed to have learned good spear techniques from her predecessor. Whenever she brandished her spear and thrust, its speed was so fast, such that to others, it appeared as if countless spears were being thrusted at the same time. The few black wolves which swooped over were quickly covered in bloody holes from her thrusts. Leng Yulan nimbly waved her giant sword as those wolves swooped over. After being frozen into ice blocks, Leng Yulan cut them into pieces. These two girls were both very strong, and even Chen Shang had nothing but endless praises for them. Chen Shang knew 3 Devil Path sect disciples were hidden here, however, he still didn't know how they could actually manipulate these devil beasts. He already asked Long Shui to find the location where these 3 were hidden. Still not found, Chen Shang asked. At the moment, he was still rushing towards Leng Yulan and the others, so he was worried that those hidden in the dark would attack them. In that big tree, Long Shui said. Chen Shang looked at a relatively larger tree and took out the demanding life devil bow. He poured in a rich amount of universe true chi and shot a huge black arrow towards that tree. In a flash, the arrow went away as it immediately pierced that giant tree. An explosive sound burst out, followed by a burst of blood mist. The arrow he shot out was filled with rich true chi, which was something akin to an explosive material. After it entered the human body, it would immediately blast open the victim. It was certainly overbearing. After a Devil Path disciple was killed by Chen Shang, a few of the wolves which were swooping over came to halt and fell on the ground. Chen Shang once again infused in the universe true chi into the demanding life devil bow and once again shot towards the trunk of that tree. In the blink of an eye, yet another explosion resounded as blood and flesh burst out from that tree. Chen Shang was just preparing to shoot the 3rd arrow when a black shadow suddenly flashed out, completely disappearing into the forest. That man actually fled, and although he didn't know who was capable of attacking their people, he knew that if he remained, only death was waiting for him. Chen Shang flew over to Shui Shenxian while the devil beasts all stood there, devoid of any movement. These were all puppets. If there was no one to manipulate them, then they would not be able to move. Elder brother, I know it's you. Leng Yulan, after seeing a tall silhouette coming from afar, immediately shouted. Shui Shenxian, after seeing Chen Shang, also grinned. Brother Shang is always elusive. In the end, what happened? Chen Shang extended out from the deep recess and respectively held Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulan's face. If not for too many people present here, Chen Shang would have already hugged both of them. Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Chen Shang held his fist towards the others and politely greeted them. Those people also saluted back one by one. Originally, they were very worried about those hidden in the dark, and Chen Zhang's appearance was totally out of their expectation. In addition, after Chen Zhang's appearance, the black wolves had all stopped moving. Long story short, the matter is very complicated. Everybody should listen very carefully. Chen Shang hastily said and began to tell the things he knew. After Shui Shenxian and the others heard his story, they were startled at first, while Leng Yulan clenched her sword's hilt, her face completely turning solemn. These Devil Path guys have always harbored bad intentions. This is very troublesome, Leng Yulan coldly said. They could not contact the outside, and they also could not leave. Currently, they could only continue to stay in here. It seems that we have to stay here for 2 months. If all the Devil Path guys were slaughtered and we stay here in the outer ring, then it will not be dangerous. Chen Shang said. Shui Shenxian said, Brother Shang, you quickly go and tell the other sect disciples, don't let them fall in the hands of these Devil Path disciples. Elder brother, you quickly go. You do not need to worry about us. Leng Yulan said. Although she wanted to follow Chen Shang, she knew she would not bring much of help to Chen Shang, even more so, she might also implicate Chen Shang. If the situation was not so grim, Chen Shang would certainly stay together with Leng Yulan and Shui Shenxian. After Chen Shang exhorted them for a while, he quickly took his leave and went to the next ambush point. From Shui Shenxian, he came to know that they were lured by a person here. As the other side only had one person and they had 13 on their side, they thought that they could come out and attack. As long as those ambush points were found, he could easily find the other sect disciples. Now Chen Shang only knew 3 ambush points, while the righteous sect had as many as 8 teams. He hoped he could reach there in time. Rest assured, these righteous sect disciples are not too weak. As long as they were not besieged by a martial artist that was too strong for them, generally, all of them could resist. Su Meiyao assured. Chen Shang nodded his head. He was chasing that man who fled by following his remnant breath. Although that man was pretty quick, he was still not as fast as Chen Shang. Just a little less than half an hour, Chen Shang caught up with that man as he took out the demanding life devil bow and shot towards that black-robed man's leg. The demanding life devil bow was very accurate, so long as he infused enough true qi, it would be stable enough. Generally, it would not miss the target, so after the black bolt penetrated that black-robed man's leg, it suddenly burst open and blasted that man's leg into pieces. Chen Shang quickly flew over and continuously smacked a good few palms on that man, melting away that black-robed man's entire bones, and causing him to suffer the excruciating pain of corroding bones. Chen Shang punched and kicked that man. That black-robed man was in the 4th level of the true martial realm, however, each of Chen Zhang's punches and kicks were infused with vigorous true qi. Each of his moves were extremely imposing, pummeling that black-robed man nearly to death. When did you come here? Chen Shang asked. He had already casted the grasping soul devil curse on that man. 3 days ago, that black-robed man replied. On one side he answered, while on the other, he spewed blood. Chen Shang tightly frowned. The 5 black-robed men he had previously encountered apparently said they didn't know how to manipulate those puppets, yet this guy who came here just 3 days ago knew how to manipulate them. Who taught you how to manipulate these black wolves? Chen Shang tugged his hair and loudly asked. An elder. When did you start learning? Where did you learn? Chen Shang once again asked. 3 months ago, inside the forbidden area of the sect. Tell me, where are the rest of you hiding? Chen Shang began asking a series of questions. He believed that this black-robed man's status was rather high compared to those 5 men he had encountered before, so he asked a lot of things. He also obtained one crucial information. To be precise, it was about the 2 strongest men in here. Both of them were in the 5th level of the true martial realm. One came 3 years ago, while the other came 3 days ago. Both of them worked together and manipulated different kinds of puppet to consume the true qi of the righteous sect disciples. 3 days ago, 50 devil sect disciples came in, and only 30 of them knew how to manipulate these puppets. Moreover, these 30 were also stronger than the rest. Chen Shang, after beheading that black-robed man, rushed to the next ambush point. The ambush points of the devil sect disciples were all linked together. If they failed once, then the next one would carry on. Even if the righteous sect disciples passed through one of the ambush points, then they would have consumed a lot of their true qi, and finally, they would be caught at the next ambush point. Chapter 238, Counterattack in the Wasteland Part 2. Chapter 238 Counterattack in the Wasteland Part 2. A while ago, Chen Shang had already exhorted Shui Shenxian and the others to prevent them from entering the depths of the southern wasteland. Because deep into the southern wasteland, the devil qi was heavier, and that could allow these puppets to rapidly absorb devil qi and restore their strength. In the periphery, the devil qi was weak, so if the puppets in the periphery had consumed their strength, it would be very difficult for them to restore. Moreover, these devil sect disciples had no lack of fear, though these righteous sect disciples were also not someone to trifle with. The nearest ambush point was not too far away. Chen Shang just ran for a while before he heard Yun Xiaodao's shout. Damn fatty, watch your big fat ass, don't be bitten by the dog. Squinted dragon, don't skew your eyes, it always makes me think something is attacking me. Hearing this voice, Chen Shang shook his head and smiled. He took out the demanding life devil bow while Long Shui was searching for those puppeteers of the devil sect hidden in the dark. Little rascal Yun, don't randomly spray your sword qi, it is ruining my hair. Zhu Rong shouted. Shu Weilong coldly said, both of you can't you spout less nonsense, don't let your manhood bitten by these things. Chen Shang was already looking at a humongous black wolf from afar. It was the same as what Shui Shenxian and the others had encountered, and all of them were devil beasts. Although they were not very strong, there was still a lot of them. But because only 15 could be manipulated at the same time, so long as one could deal with them, it would not be dangerous. Yun Xiaodao and their squad's teamwork was rather good. Yun Xiaodao and Hao Dongqing were responsible for attacking, both of their offense was rather strong. Lei Xianglin, Lei Zhang, Zhu Rong and Shu Weilong were responsible for fending off those black wolves swooping over from everywhere. After these wolves were crippled, they were then given to Yun Xiaodao and Hao Dongqing to kill. Yao Haisheng and Lian Mingdong were responsible for scanning the surroundings, lest some other thing attack them. Wu Qianqin was releasing some flames which surrounded them in one big circle, causing those nearby black wolves into retreat to prevent themselves from getting burned. Her flame had formed a very strong defensive circle. Probably, these devil sect disciples would have never expected that the devil beasts they were proud of would simply be vulnerable in front of these well-trained righteous sect disciples. If not for having a large number, their ambush would have already failed. Of course, their main purpose was to make the righteous sect disciples consume their true qi, and at the same time, to probe their accurate strength. Damn pig, you're a fucking calamity. You said these demon beasts are worth a fortune and we should catch them. Look now, we are fucking surrounded. Motherfucker, there are still more than 100, and they are also so damn difficult to kill. Yun Xiaodao grumbled. Little rascal Yun, when father had picked up a top-grade crystal stone and the building foundation Dans, why did you not say anything then? If we make a fortune, you will definitely work yourself to death even more than me. Zhu Rong cursed. Chen Shang had long been accustomed to their bickering. As long as they were all together, they would never stop bickering with each other. Although they act like this, their relations were very good. Found it. On that tree, and that tree. Long Shui pointed at 3 different trees to Chen Shang. Those devil sect disciples had hollowed out the trunk of the tree and hid within it. However, this also made it more convenient for Chen Shang to shoot them to death with the demanding life devil bow. The devil sect disciples on the ambush points didn't know their plot has already been seen by Chen Shang, and Chen Shang, in secret, was already counter-attacking. Currently, Chen Shang had already killed almost 10 devil sect disciples. Chen Shang, with the demanding life devil bow, aimed at a relatively larger tree, mobilized his true qi and infused it into the demanding life devil bow. At this moment, the devil sect disciple hiding in the tree probably thought it was extremely cool, manipulating some black wolf to fight. However, while he was enjoying the moment, a black bolt made of vigorous true qi, without any sound, penetrated his body, thereby blasting him into pieces. Hey, next. Chen Shang, after seeing the burst of blood mist accompanied by broken pieces of wood, mischievously laughed and once again released an arrow while facing another tree. One after another, he had shot 3 arrows. He was worried that someone would run away, and by that time, the devil sect disciples would then realize what was happening, making it harder for him to kill them so easily and quietly. With 3 consecutive explosive sounds, 3 trees were blown up, and it was accompanied by some blown away pieces of meat. Yun Xiaodao and the others had already guessed something was up, and with the halt of the attack of these black wolves, Zhu Rong grabbed this opportunity and quickly brandished the long sword in his hand, mindlessly hacking these black wolves. Chen Shang had a wide grin on his face as he ran over. Everyone, after seeing Chen Shang, immediately let off their guards. At the same time, their admiration for Chen Shang surged forth in their heart, a really monstrous talent. With just his appearance, he had scared the shit out of these wolves. Elder brother Chen, it's really you. I should have already guessed you must have arrived. Right, what the hell happened? Yun Xiaodao asked. Chen Shang, in order to not stall any more time, quickly said everything he knew. Yun Xiaodao's group's reaction was the same as Shui Shenxian's group's. They were scared as well as angry. But now that they know, naturally, they had their guards up and would not be lured again. Okay, you quickly go and converge with the disciples of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire and the Icewind Valley. Once all of you are together, you don't need to be worried about getting wiped out by the devil sect disciples all of a sudden. They are not so formidable as you've imagined. I've already killed more than 10 along the way. Chen Shang laughed and said. A little smile appeared on Yuan Xiaodao's face. Elder brother Chen, it's easy for you to say, but for us, these guys are very insidious. Only you who is more insidious than them could hold them. You, this guy, do you want to say I'm insidious? Chen Shang scoffingly said. You already said so. Yuan Xiaodao started laughing. At this time, Wu Qianchen interjected, Chen Shang, you should quickly go. By the way, you have to be careful of the beast martial sect and the proud sword sect. They seem to hate you, and they banded together and created a squad to deal with you. Understood. Chen Shang laughed and said, then like a wind, he flew away. Yuan Xiaodao and Zhu Rong once again bickered for a bit, and only after slaughtering the entire pack of the Black Wolves, did they follow in accordance with the said route by Chen Shang to find Shui Shenxian's group. Chen Shang, along the way, encountered human devils and devil beasts. It could be seen that the ones the devil sect disciples were manipulating were very weak. As for the stronger ones, they could not be tamed by them. If they saw those stronger ones and survived, it could already be considered as very lucky. Although the attack of these kinds of human devils and the devil beasts was weak, it was still very consuming, and it could easily consume the true chi of the others. The next ambush point was also not completely into the depths of the southern wasteland. Instead, it was stretched along one side, and it could very well be considered as a zone. If these Devil Path sect's disciples entered the depths, then they would also not be able to endure. A while ago, he heard from Yuan Xiaodao that after the 8 righteous sect's disciples entered, they spread along many directions, and all of them went looking for a safe point. They were looking for an advantageous location where they could attack and defend at the same time, which could allow them to stay safe for the next 2 months. If not for these Devil Path sect's conspiracy, then their plan would have been surefire. He quickly went to the next ambush point, but he didn't find any righteous disciple, or anyone else in that matter. Very quietly, he patiently waited for Long Shui to complete her probing. He wanted to see whether or not he could find those hidden devil sect disciples in here. Found them. Long Shui became happy. Although she didn't act, helping Chen Shang to secretly plot against the Devil Path sects made her feel elated. Another 3 people. Chen Shang reckoned that they were yet to lure in any righteous sect disciples. This time, we will be low-key, a bit gentle. Chen Shang slightly smiled. He shot an arrow as fine as a hair shot, although it was only separated by a bark. Long Shui could still lock onto the devil sect disciple's head. With just one shot, one of them was instantly dealt with. He didn't make the arrow explode, as he wanted to kill all 3 of them quietly. Chapter 239, Devil Beast Raid. Chapter 239 Devil Beast Raid. At this moment, Chen Shang could not bear to put down the demanding life devil bow. He decided to ask Lu Menger to enhance it and make it even more formidable instead. If this was possible, he would request Lu Menger to forge many more similar equipments so he could equip his own people. If that happened, then they would be a force to be reckoned with during the battle. If 10 powerful arrows came out of nowhere towards a single target, just what would happen? The more Chen Shang thought about this, the more excited he became. However, this kind of equipment was definitely not easy to refine. He understood this point very well. Furthermore, many refining methods had been lost, including this particular one. After all 3 arrows were shot, the 3 people hiding inside the tree trunk would probably stay there until their bodies completely decomposed. Even in their death, none of them thought that the tree would become their gravestone, and the trunk their coffin. The route was around the periphery, but not into the depths of the southern wasteland. It seems these devil sect disciples also knew going too far was dangerous, a point of no return. Even they did not dare enter. However, if Chen Shang wanted to destroy the altar, he would have to go far past the point of no return, as the altar was deep past that line. The altar had terrifying abilities. Not only could it contact those in the devil domain, it could also awaken sleeping tyrants, and even dispel the array surrounding this place. To perform the ritual, a sacrifice was necessary, or they could only ask the devil from the devil domain to release its strength, or send something useful. Under ordinary circumstances, the sacrifice needed to be alive. Suddenly, the ground started shaking. From far away, the sound of fighting could be heard. Chen Shang was astonished in his heart, and with a single leap, he quickly climbed up onto a high tree. He quickly noticed many people covered in black robes with huge executioner blades hacking towards 10 men. Human devils, and so many of them. To Chen Zhang's surprise, there were a good few hundred of them present, tightly surrounding 10 men. At the same time, there were 30 of them attacking, in other words, there were 6 puppeteers. Little dragon, quickly find those 6 people, Chen Shang said before he secretly rushed towards the battle. With Chen Shang closing in, Long Shui quickly found the location of the 6 key individuals. He inferred that all of these people definitely came here 3 years ago, otherwise it would have been impossible for them to find so many human devils. These 6 people were not hiding in a trunk, but rather in the canopy. From time to time, they threw a few short swords from above towards those 10 men. It's the Proud Sword Sect and the Beast Martial Sect. Chen Shang was astonished in his heart. Wu Qianqin had informed him that the disciples of the Proud Sword Sect and the Beast Martial Sect had allied together, and warned him to be vigilant of the disciples from these 2 sects. Among the Proud Sword Sect, there was an individual who Chen Shang recognized, Gan Jujian. Before, Chen Shang had ruthlessly disgraced him. It was impossible for Gan Jujian not to hate Chen Shang, but he didn't care too much about it. If the other party wanted to kill him, he would definitely fight back and use a number of brutal means to eradicate the threat. With one shot, Chen Shang blasted a Devil Sect disciple into pieces with a thick black bolt. Then, one after the other, he shot a good few arrows in rapid succession. When they were still confused about what was happening, they had already been killed. These Devil Sect disciples were not very strong, only around the 3rd level of the true martial realm. Even if they had erected a true Qi shield, in front of the crossbolt created from Chen Zhang's universe true Qi, it would be easily penetrated by the crossbolt from the demanding life devil bow. Those human devils had no intelligence. The disciples of the Proud Sword Sect and the Beast Martial Sect all heaved a huge collective sigh of relief. If these human devils had all swooped over to assault them, they would be torn apart into pieces. As Chen Shang walked towards them with the demanding life devil bow in his hand, those 10 disciples suddenly raised their guards again as if facing an enemy. Gan Jujian and the other were not stupid, they obviously realized that those hundreds of devils had all been manipulated. Considering what just happened, combined with the earlier explosions, those puppeteers must have been killed by someone. After noticing the demanding life devil bow in Chen Zhang's hands, they immediately understood he was the one who had saved them. This made them rather upset, because they all very much wanted to kill Chen Shang. Firstly because Chen Shang had a bounty of 15 million crystal stones on his head, and secondly because Chen Shang had a great reputation, which could raise their prestige if they managed to kill him. However, they all didn't dare to attack Chen Shang now, because they were clearly aware of the difference between Chen Shang and themselves. The disciples of the Proud Sword Sect originally had a bad temper, and were very arrogant. Even if they were all rescued, they would definitely not be grateful. As for the disciples of the Beast Martial Sect, certain ideas had been instilled in them by their sect, making them hate the Extreme Martial Sect, and more specifically, hate Chen Shang. This is also why these disciples often went to the borders of the Extreme Martial Sect and secretly killed some civilians to feed their demon beasts. However, since the last time Chen Shang had spoken, they didn't dare to go again. If the Extreme Martial Sect was provoked, their Beast Martial Sect would definitely be destroyed. Chen Shang saw these 10 people putting up a stinking expression as if his actions to save them was an utmost insult to them. He secretly regretted for being a busybody a moment ago. However, if he had not saved them, then these 10 men would have been captured and offered as a sacrifice. By that time, the stakes would be higher. We will not thank you, Gan Jujian coldly said. I also didn't ask for your gratitude, I only want to tell you something. Whether you want to hear or not, I have to say it. Chen Shang simply informed them of the current situation. Although they were surprised in their hearts, they also felt admiration for Chen Shang on discovering the conspiracy. However, they were also very uncomfortable as well as jealous. Humph, why should we believe you? A Beast Martial Sect's disciple said. I don't care whether you believe me or not. But, I do hope you do not implicate the whole world. Chen Shang took out the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade while he was speaking and began beheading those motionless human devils. His speed combined with his brutal execution method left those 10 onlookers drenched with a cold sweat, yet also even more jealous. Just as Chen Shang killed half of them, a very nauseating and penetrating howl suddenly came out of nowhere. At the same time, it was also followed by a raid of terrifying devil chi. Chen Shang immediately determined that it came from a very terrifying and powerful devil beast. Indeed, a creature faintly resembling an ancient crocodile suddenly swooped over. It had a huge body, as long as 3 jongs, covered in very hard scales glistening with black aura. Its teeth-filled mouth spewing out black chi continuously. As soon as this crocodile devil beast came over, it began eating those human devils. To Chen Zhang's surprise, that crocodile devil beast's speed seemed almost like teleportation. His forehead was drenched in cold sweat because this crocodile devil beast was very strong. Gan Jujian and the others seemed to be petrified from fear, their limbs went numb from fear just from the devil chi emanating from this huge crocodile devil beast. This huge creature soon finished its meal of those human devils, and then looked at Chen Shang. A sudden glare from those pair of pupils was rather terrifying. Incoming! As Long Shui shouted, Chen Zhang's figure already disappeared. Just before that crocodile devil beast opened its jaw to bite him, as a giant tree was snapped in two like a twig. Chen Shang still had a lingering sensation of fear. If he was even a little bit slower a second ago, maybe his bones would have been snapped by that powerful jaw instead of the tree. Along his journey, Chen Shang had prayed to not encounter this kind of powerful devil beast. However, he still encountered it, he could only sigh at his own bad luck. Upon seeing the crocodile devil beast attacking Chen Shang, Gan Jujian and the others were extremely happy in their hearts, and even quickly fled. This made Chen Shang secretly curse them. Chapter 240, Turning Back on Old Acquaintances. Chapter 240 Turning Back on Old Acquaintances. The crocodile devil beast saw someone escaping, so it immediately retaliated with a sweep of its huge tail, uprooting a giant tree along with the soil. However, Gan Jujian and the others still escaped. Of course, Chen Shang was in no mood to battle this dangerous beast. But now that he was being eyed, if he couldn't defeat this crocodile devil beast, maybe this big guy would find other righteous sect disciples and harm them. Chen Shang clutched the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade while moving in a zigzag fashion in order to avoid that keen and huge tail. The trees it swept, without any exception, were all torn into pieces. A moment ago, Chen Shang paid attention when this crocodile devil beast attacked. He noticed that before it attacked, it would release a black devil chi, and this was precisely its source of power. This creature should be the black armored crocodile from the ancient period, a third-grade spirit beast. It should have lived in the southern wasteland for a very long time, absorbing a large amount of devil chi, making it become so powerful. It should be close to a 6th-level true martial realm martial artist. Fortunately, the potential of the black armored crocodiles is not great, and at most, it can only become a 4th-grade spirit beast. Now that it has absorbed the devil chi in here, it should only be equal to a 5th-grade spirit beast. Su Meiyao said. The black armored crocodile didn't only have fighting instinct, its perception was also very strong. Even after Chen Shang converged his breath, he was still found. As the huge tail swept everything in its path, Chen Shang brandished his blade to meet. Azure Chi burst from the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade as Chen Shang infused a large amount of Azure Dragon True Chi into it, causing it to become extremely heavy. When he cleaved it, the strength produced was even more tyrannical. As the broadsword and that huge tail fully covered in black scales collided together, sparks burst forth. That black armored crocodile let out a howl, and as for Chen Shang, he was swept away because of the tens of thousands Jin impact from the collision. Although the conclusion was as such, the previous blade strike didn't show any weakness. It left a hole on black armored crocodile's tail, and the tumbling Chen Shang could see black blood dripping from its tail. The black armored crocodile's huge body was supported by 4 thick and powerful limbs. It slightly lowered its body before it fiercely took a leap towards Chen Shang. Chen Shang, at the moment, was still tumbling away, and this kind of speed from the black armored crocodile was totally out of Chen Zhang's expectation. He simply was too late to resist, and finally, he was ruthlessly struck by its giant head. The black armored crocodile was a spirit beast, although its intellect had been eroded by devil chi, turning it into a maniac, battle instinct was still ingrained into its body. It could be said that it has a rich battle experience. When it struck Chen Shang, its head was infused with black devil chi, granting it even more power during the collision. Chen Shang let out a bellow as he fiercely slammed on a nearby hill, leaving a giant pit on the side of the hill. Soon, a large number of stones flew down from the top of the hill. This guy, puff! Chen Shang spat out blood. The black armored crocodile's strength was far more than he had anticipated, and its wisdom was even more shocking. My injuries are serious, this time, I have to use that move. Chen Shang got down from that hill and mobilized the hidden mystical spiritual power in his body. He made it flow through his whole body, transforming it into spirit patterns. After he sensed that the black armored crocodile was rushing over, he chanted some spell. The black-armored crocodile, in a span of seconds, came in front of Chen Shang. It just stood there, without any movement, observing Chen Shang. It didn't attack immediately, but it opened its mouth and bit towards Chen Shang. Heavenly Dragon Seal, release. Chen Shang ferociously roared as true qi from his body suddenly drifted into the air. No less than half of his spiritual power drifted away too, and to Chen Zhang's surprise, a large amount of devil qi rushed from all four directions like a surging tide. In the blink of an eye, it formed a huge black dragon claw in the air. The black-armored crocodile felt the incoming threat, but just as he wanted to avoid, that huge black dragon claw slammed down on him like a mountain. As a thunderous explosion befell, a wild light suddenly flashed from Chen Zhang's body. Long Shui had used her own power to create a shield to guard Chen Shang. As Chen Shang was in front of the black-armored crocodile when the huge heavenly dragon seal befell, he too was affected. If not for Long Shui, he would probably be even more heavily injured. Boom, 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 the world shook and the ground fiercely trembled. The mountain behind Chen Shang also disappeared, while the whole ground below was covered in numerous hundred zhang deep pits. As for the black-armored crocodile, it was buried under the ground. Chen Shang, from underneath the black-armored crocodile, climbed out. He was in a very sorry state. He had suffered serious injuries, but in the end, he had defeated that powerful black-armored crocodile. This guy's armor is really thick, I want it. Pooh, Chen Shang spat out the soil that had entered his mouth, which was accompanied by a lot of blood. From the impact brought by the black-armored crocodile's attack a while ago, his 5 zhang and 6 fu have suffered serious injuries. This armor is not worse than the adamantine crocodile python, Su Meiyao said. Speaking of the adamantine crocodile python, Chen Shang had almost forgotten. That adamantine crocodile python was still with Lu Menger. He had not yet taken back his share. To Chen Zhang's surprise, the black-armored crocodile was still alive. Chen Shang climbed up on his head, and with the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, he ruthlessly stabbed down on its protruding black eye. The azure dragon slaughtering blade struck deep into the black-armored crocodile's brain, but only after Chen Shang stabbed multiple times did the black-armored crocodile finally die. My strength is far from enough. If I encounter a few more this type of beasts, I'll definitely die. Chen Shang lamented after storing the black-armored crocodile. Facing this kind of beast, he felt very powerless, and he knew that deep into the southern wasteland, these kinds of beasts were abundant, and they were even more powerful than the black-armored crocodile. Long Shui said, at the very least, you need to have the strength of a 5th-level true marital realm martial artist. Only then could you easily cope with this guy. The azure dragon slaughtering devil blade is specialized in slaughtering the devils, but your power is far from enough. Because of that, you cannot exhibit its complete power, otherwise, with just one strike, you could behead this guy. Even though Chen Shang had the black tortoise adamantine armor, he still suffered serious injuries from the impact. If it was the others, they would probably be already dead. At once, he took out 2 boxes of white jade dan and a piece of hell spirit grass and swallowed them down in one breath. He also took out true elemental dans and swallowed them to recover his true qi. Not much of his true qi was remaining, and if he encountered any crisis again, it would then be very dangerous. From the bottom of the huge pit, as Chen Shang came out and looked back at the little lake-like giant pit, he could not help but marvel in his heart. With his strength right now, he could already produce such might. If he was in the Nirvana realm, wouldn't he be able to easily destroy an entire mountain range? Someone's coming, it's those guys from the Beast Martial sect and the Proud Sword sect. Long Shui suddenly said. Chen Shang turned his head to look. 10 figures walking out from the ruined forest came into his view. Chen Shang, ha ha, I'd never thought you would have a day like this. Gan Jujian said with a hideous grin. With a greedy look, he stared at the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade in Chen Zhang's hands. The Beast Martial sect's disciples also took out their weapons one by one as they sinisterly stared at the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade of Chen Zhang's. The Proud Sword sect's disciples also pulled out their swords and slowly walked over to Chen Shang. TLN, stupid move. Sigh. Chapter 241, Great Swallowing.